The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin It Strong Style. Yosh.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we will break down our year-end awards and cover all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/social suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Young boy, it is the most wonderful time of the year. Award season.
Yes, it is, and we are here live recording. What is this? Did we do awards for 2016 when we started the show?
2017 was the first, because we started the show in 2017 and we did our first awards 2017.
Okay, so I'm bad at math.
This is the 7th annual.
Okay, so this is the 7th annual Keeping It Strong Style New Japan Wrestling Awards. So, one thing is, I don't care how many people vote in it this year. Like in the past, I was hell bent to try and ensure that as many people as possible could participate in it. And don't get me wrong, if you're listening, we want you to share this and we want you to post this, on different. What are the places? The Discord,
Reddit, Discord, X, Facebook, Instagram, MySpace.
Yeah, any groups, anyone that that you talk about New Japan with, that you're friends with, share it with them. Sure, we want everyone to be able to participate, but in the past, I've really wanted this to be this big thing that everybody's tuned into. But now, if they dig it, they dig it, and if they don't vote, whatever, it is what it is. I'm done trying to convince, a million people to, watch this shit, much less vote on it,
Right. Well, good thing is, the ballot did go live last week and we've already had a ton of voters come in. So thank you to everybody who's voted so far. But I know a lot of people like to wait to vote until we do this award preview and breakdown to kind of hear some of our reasoning and thoughts behind the nominees and the categories. So we'll do that here today. Normally this is a bonus episode, but I think with our busy schedules, it's a holiday season. The awards have kind of been shifting later and later every year, just kind of due to World Tag League and other stuff. So we're going to jam it in here and cover all the news and stuff as well. She said.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot this normally is a bonus episode, and this year we're just doing nothing. There was nothing going on this week anyway, so it works out. But maybe next year when I don't have quite as much going on career-wise, because I do got a test coming up literally a month from now, from today's date. So it's getting down to crunch time. But that won't be going on next year, so maybe I can be a little bit more tentative. Because full disclosure, the reason this shit took so long is me. I'm the reason. But I am glad that a lot of people are voting and are enjoying the awards, and I do think that this is something that a lot of people look forward to. And don't get me wrong, there are voices and ears in the company that are aware of this as well. So it's kind of a cool little thing. So if you are listening, definitely vote, definitely share this, and let's get into it.
Yeah, so to vote, the link for the ballot will be in the description of the show, or you can go to our Twitter. It's pinned to the top of the tweet, or you just go into your browser, type in bit.ly/KissAward23, and that will take you to our Google Doc ballot where you can place your votes. So like Josh says, the 7th annual awards. Our grading period is for this award is November 21st, 2022 to November 19th, 2023. Each category for the nominees, they have a first place, second place, and third place vote. So your first place vote gives the nominee 3 points, second place 2 points, third place 1 point. And, like we mentioned, after you submit your ballot, make sure you share it and tell your friends to vote in as well. Voting will close on January 3rd, 11:59 p.m. And then...
Oh, nice. I like that,
Get you, psyched for January 4th. And then on January 9th, on Keeping It Strong Style, we will announce the winners of the award. So you got plenty of time still to vote if you haven't voted yet. And so let's go through the awards here. So first, we'll start off with the big one here, the Antonio Inoki Wrestler of the Year. So our nominees, we got the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii, the Ungovernable, Tetsuya Naito, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada, the Aerial Assassin, Will Ospreay, the Frontman, Zack Sabre Jr., the current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Sonata, the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, and the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, the Ticking Time Bomb, Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah. So, there have been years where it was really difficult to narrow down the field, and then other years where it was a bit easier. And then, for instance, the first year of the pandemic was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's going to win any of this. It's a very kind of weird and tumultuous time. And in some ways, this year's awards kind of felt similar to that vibe for me when we were doing the nominations. It was easy to figure out who should be included here. And there might have been, Shota Umino was like very close, very much on the cusp, didn't make it. But it wasn't too hard to narrow down these particular individuals.
Yeah, I would say that this was probably one of the easiest categories, I think, to narrow down and get the nominees in. I think it's probably the first time in a while that, Tanahashi is not on here. But I mean, it was pretty clear the guys who had a standout great year. And like we always say, our Wrestler of the Year award, it's kind of a combination of your Flair Thez and your most outstanding. So the cool thing about this award, it's all about how you want to vote. What you see is, the Wrestler of the Year. So people might, they put a lot of weight in ring as their Wrestler of the Year. So obviously, we got Tomohiro Ishii on here, a guy that, even though he was in the never 6-man division and, he's kind of been slowing down year after year, he's still going out there putting on, incredible matches. So, somebody who's high work rate, that can get your vote. If you're more of, I want my guy to be a top draw, good promo, you might be like, oh, well, Tetsuya Naito or Kazuchika Okada, that kind of the top star, flagship kind of guy. That's who you want to vote for. But I think a lot of these guys across the board, I think in ring, I think it's covered by all these guys, and then all of them kind of have their different strength for people to vote on here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some individuals, I think the argument could be made more so for, like you mentioned, like the Flair Thez aspect, where either they're in a prominent position or prominent stories kind of surrounding them, or they were like a top champion or tournament winner or something of that nature. And then other individuals, the weight is going to be more so based on their in-ring success, which is a huge component of the fandom, why people tune into New Japan in the first place. So, I don't know if we want to just go through real briefly and kind of just touch on key aspects why we think each of these individuals deserved inclusion, I suppose.
Yeah, we can do that. So, Tomohiro Ishii. Let's start with him.
Yeah, so Ishii, this wasn't necessarily his strongest year in terms of like kayfabe success, but he did end up winning the never openweight 6-man tag team titles alongside Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi. And so that was one of the big accolades and stories kind of surrounding his year. But in ring, he had an incredible year. In almost every single tournament, he was still a top competitor in the G1, did well in the New Japan Cup, had multiple great singles matches just all throughout the year, whether that was here or, in other companies.
Yeah, I think obviously the most consistent guy on this bout when it comes to in-ring quality. You just know what you're going to get with Ishii, and I think this year was actually a better year for him than last year, because I listened back to our preview show last year, and we were a little down on Ishii. He kind of had a down year, and he barely made the cut last year, but I think this year was a better year for him. He had a lot of great stuff internationally, Rev Pro, the Shingo match, the Luke Jacobs match, and I know that's not necessarily quote unquote New Japan, but I think a lot of the Excursion stuff I think does help a nominee's case for winning Wrestler of the Year. But yeah, overall, really great year. Then, like you mentioned, the Team Hall of Fame thing with him and Tanahashi and Okada, they've held it down, the second half of the year with those 6-man tags. And, we're going to talk about some of their matches come, match of the year, tag match of the year. But they've just had a great year.
And one thing I'll do as we kind of progress through this talking point, I've got cage matches, top 100 New Japan rated matches of the year, and I'll just plug in up the person's name, see how many times their name shows up on the page, just to kind of give you a brief idea. Tomohiro Ishii, 13 matches out of the top 100. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So then next up, Tetsuya Naito, winning G1 Climax this year. That's his third G1 win. He's going to be heading to the Tokyo Dome January 4th. And, I think this was kind of a year to build Naito up into that spot. Incredible matches in G1 with Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada. Again, I think this is more of kind of a guy that he's a top draw, good on promos, great merch seller. LIJ is one of the top faction. He consistently is a top star, has very good matches, won the G1. A lot of things working for Naito this year.
Yeah, I mean, for Naito, obviously he won the G1 like you mentioned, but he also had an early spotlight on him at the early part of the year where he was he was basically the main focal point of the story between the Great Mutas, or Keiji Muto's final match in New Japan, and him never actually touching or facing off with Naito in that match. And that was sort of some of the big appeal of that. And then coming out of that Wrestle Kingdom 17 event, they had the Yokohama Arena show. Him and Kano had their big face off, and that was one of the bigger matches in the early part of the year. And then eventually headlining the Tokyo Dome in I think it was March for Keiji Muto's final retirement match. And that was another big kind of key indicator that we were sort of speculating, this year might be sort of about Naito. There's a good chance he's probably going to win the G1. In terms of match quality, if you look, again, I'd say this for everybody, you only see his name listed 4 times this year. It's going to be the Kano match, and then his work at the tail end of the G1 with Zack Sabre Jr., as well as his matches with Ospreay and Okada. But the matches with Okada and Ospreay on the final 2 days are so high that he peaks almost higher than most other performers in New Japan this year. And that is definitely worth something, because he's got 2 matches that are in the top 6 of the year and definitely match of the year contender. So, that's probably the big selling point for Naito this year.
Yeah. Then next up, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. I mean, again, this is, the current ace of the promotion. The first half of the year was all about, Okada versus the new generation. We saw the stuff of him in Kiyomiya, and then he's been battling the likes of Ren Narita, Shota Umino, and kind of fighting off the young guys. And then, we had the big Bryan Danielson match at Forbidden Door. But then kind of after that second half of the year, there was also more of the focus on the Team Hall of Fame stuff of him and Ishii and Tanahashi with the Never Six-Man titles. And that's kind of been his main focus this last half of the year until we get the, Bryan Danielson coming back to challenge him for the rematch in Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, Okada shows up with 17 matches on the top 100 list for New Japan on Cage Match this year. So that's quite a lot. Started off the year strong, defeated Jay White in the Tokyo Dome in the main event, went on to defend that title multiple times, was dethroned at Sakura Genesis by the current champion Sonata, but then kind of, sort of pivoted into having an incredible G1, one of the best G1s of anybody in the calendar year, probably one of the best Okada G1s in forever. And then having this very lengthy and, kind of lofty title run with him and Ishii and Tanahashi. So even though Okada hasn't been the forefront of the company, hasn't been main eventing every single show, his work has been impeccable. He's kind of been the backbone in some ways of a lot of New Japan this year.
Yeah. Then Will Ospreay, I think just saying the name itself writes the case here. I'll see Will Ospreay, a 5-star wrestling machine, had the incredible match with Kenny Omega at the beginning of the year at Wrestle Kingdom, dropping the title to Kenny there, and then kind of having this rebuilding and the story of I need to beat Kenny or I don't belong in New Japan. And that led him to have a great feud with Taichi in the New Beginning, and then he went to New Japan Cup, got hurt in the New Japan Cup, came back, had the rematch at Forbidden Door, beat Kenny, got the U.S. title back, and then from there, had a really great second half of the year with the U.S./UK title, having all these great defenses, incredible match with Tsuji, incredible match with Umino. It's another banner year for Will Ospreay.
Yeah, after dropping the U.S. title to Kenny Omega on January 4th, was unsuccessful in regaining any titles until the halfway point of the year where he faced off with Will Ospreay again at Forbidden Door, regained the U.S. title, had multiple very, touted and critically acclaimed title defense matches throughout the year. Also, the work that Ospreay did outside of New Japan, just worldwide and in various different countries and companies, was also kind of has to be taken into account. He does only show up in the top 100 matches of New Japan 13 times, but I think what makes his argument a little bit different is when you look at the top 8 or the top 10 matches of the year, he's in 6 of those, and the first 4 all have his involvement. So he peaks higher than even Naito. There's nobody else who's listed this many times at the very, very top end of New Japan's, match quality. And, for a lot of people, they kind of looked at his title reign and then looked at, say, Sonata's. And there was that discussion, that compare and contrast about, who kind of was the top star of the year, basically.
Right. Yeah. Who was the real world champion? Then we got Zack Sabre Jr. Won the New Japan World TV title at Wrestle Kingdom, becoming the first TV champion. And then he's held the belt all year. He's the modern defense breaker with these multiple defenses of the TV title. This new 15-minute concept, and it was really kind of also the poster man, the front man, I should say, for that title and for TMDK. Led his own faction this year. Brought in Kosei Vegeta under his wing. I think Zach did a lot of really cool stuff. Had the feuds with Jeff Cobb for the TV title over summer. Thought he had a really good G1. Got the last Will Ospreay match at a Royal Quest. Another great, I think, in-ring year for Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, Zack Sabre Jr., speaking of his title defenses, is currently sitting at 16 successful title defenses in the course of 1 year with the new NJPW World Television Championship. You did a great job kind of running down a lot of the accolades and kind of story beats there. Zach did have 11 of the top 100 matches this year, so his name kind of popping up there pretty frequently, and a lot of that was, based around his TV title run, which, like you mentioned, sub 15-minute matches. So you could imagine how there's benefits and limitations when it comes to being the guy known for having sub 15-minute matches, but I feel like Zach made it work. And then you kind of combine that with the work he did in the G1, which he was in the weakest block of the entire tournament, that D block, and he was the MVP of the D block in the tournament. So, Zach had a great year this year. To me, if you want my honest opinion, I prefer Zach's TV title run to, like, say, Orange Cassidy's international title run.
Yeah, I think Zach's TV run, with the range of opponents he had, the quality of the matches, I think is going to go down as one of the best title reigns of 2023, especially a year where a lot of the world champions across the board and a lot of promotions weren't putting out some of their best stuff.
Absolutely.
But speaking of world champions, the next guy, Sonata. So also, the big thing here for Sonata, he finally won the big one. He goes to Secure Genesis. He defeats Okada, finally wins the world heavyweight title. New look, gets a faction, becomes a leader of just 5 guys. And, we're optimistic. It's going to be a great second half of the year for Sonata. Goes in, has a fine match with Jack Perry, and then goes into the G1. Luckily, he's put in that A block with all the young guys who are hungry and, really want to prove themselves. So he had a lot of good matches there. But then post G1, his title reigns felt kind of cold. Also having one of the worst title matches of the year, probably since we've been recording this show, against Evil. And then going into, feuding with Naito, which has felt, at least Western side of things, it's felt very cold. I know they're selling tons of tickets. There is a ton of domestic interest in Naito versus Sonata, but it just feels like the feud's not really heating up. But Sonata.
Have you watched the breakdown video that New Japan put out between Naito and Sonata, kind of detailing their 18-year history?
Not yet. I watched the Naito interview in the baseball stadium.
Yeah, he ripped him a new one in that one.
Yeah.
No, you need to watch the I don't know. Let's just call it the what do they call that for AEW? Road to?
Yeah.
Yeah, watch the Road to video that New Japan put out. It's pretty good, and it does help. But I can't deny with most of what you just said there. But it is one of those things. I think Sonata, if we're being honest, was one of the guys that was closer to being on the chopping block than to being a slam dunk for a nominee for Wrestler of the Year. But when you held the world title for the length of time that he has, it's kind of hard to deny his at least nomination for Wrestler of the Year. And on top of that, he did have 6 of the top matches of the year. That is less than some of the other wrestlers. I think his argument is somewhat closer to like what we described for Tetsuya Naito. Difference being that Naito kind of peaked a bit higher than Sonata did, whereas Sonata was more so like the consistent focal point of a lot of the, he was the front man of the company. He was the guy having most of the main events all throughout the year and was at the top of the card. So putting that together with some of the top matches he had with Okada and Kiyomiya and Tsuji and Taichi, that sort of thing, he still did have a solid year. He's not going to be getting my vote, but he's here.
Yeah, I mean, he won New Japan Cup, main event at Secure Genesis, won the title, won the A block. Like, he's had a lot of milestones where it's kind of hard to ignore from a kayfabe sense to why he wouldn't be on the ballot. I think definitely the in ring is not as strong as some of the other nominees here, but yeah, like you mentioned, he's the world champion. Again, this is kind of more of your Flair Thez kind of voting. If you're looking for the guy who's kind of like your top guy, your world champion, if you're more of that kind of voter, I could see you where Sonata ends up on your top 3.
Now, Jeremy, don't give anything away. I haven't looked at the numbers. I know you probably have been. You didn't give me access to those, so
I did. I did add your email on there.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how all that works, but I'm just shooting in the dark here, but not trying to sway anybody. But I got the sneaking suspicion that this might be the first awards where the current reigning world champion does not place in the top 3 of Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah, it is not looking very good for.
Whoa! I told you not to tell the people. You're like, oh, it's not looking good for Sonata.
I'll say this: if you're a Sonata fan and you think he deserves to be in the top 3, you better get to the ballots. You better, go smack down your vote, because he's gonna need it.
That's gonna do it for Wrestler of the Year, right?
Now we got 2 more.
Oh, my bad.
We got the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, who had again he's kind of in that Ishii realm of a guy who's gonna always have a great in-ring year. There's just so much. He's just like another consistently great wrestler. I'm trying to remember some of the stuff he did this year, but
his KOPW title run.
That's right. Oh yeah, him and
phenomenal.
Hanare, the what was it, the last man standing, Ultimate Triad match thing they did.
Yeah, plus their match at the G1. Their 3 matches, and we'll get to Feud of the Year, but it's a strong contender for Feud of the Year. You had the match with Okada.
That's right, in February for the world title match. Yeah,
his run through the G1 was really great. He had the match with Nakajima in the early part of the year that took place on the Noah New Japan show. Shingo had a really strong year, plus kind of reviving the feud with him and Taichi, as well as the it's not New Japan per se, but it is New Japan adjacent at the tail end of last year, and it was part of this grading period. The KOPW title match between him and Taichi that took place at the Taka Taichi Mania event for Just Tap Out, one of the best Excursion matches of the year. So yeah, Shingo still had a banner year. He shows up on the top 100 list for 2023 in New Japan 9 times. So he really did have a fantastic year.
Yeah. Then last here we have Hiromu Takahashi winning the junior title at Wrestle Kingdom, and he's been the junior champion for the whole year, majority of the grading period, several defenses. I think he's up to like V7 right now. He's been the face of the junior division as usual, and having great matches and doing it all across Japan. We've seen him go to multiple promotions. He kind of spearheaded the junior festivals in Japan and America. So he just did a lot across the board in the junior division, having good matches, being the front guy. I think he's a very well-rounded nominee here.
Yeah, 7 defenses, like you mentioned. He had 12 of the top 100 matches in New Japan this year. I do feel like the second half of his year kind of slowed down once we got to the G1, but that typically does tend to happen when it comes to focus on the juniors. But did a lot of work to work in multiple promotions across Japan this year, and spearheaded the All-Star Junior Festivals here and in the States as well. So did a lot of great work there. And this is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title tends to, over the last decade, has tended to be a hot potato belt and commodity. And it literally hasn't been since the reign of Prince Devitt that someone had this many title defenses. And so even if he hasn't broken the record just yet, it is still a very notable reign with a lot of great defenses, someone that has worked to kind of be an ambassador for New Japan across the country, and, even just won the Tokyo Sports Award. So,
yeah, and also, his goal is very clear, wanting to break the defense record. He wants the junior title main event in Tokyo Dome. So he has really big goals for the junior division, and that's kind of played out with his work and the way that he's positioned this year.
Nice. So that is going to do it for Wrestler of the Year. That's the big one. The second big award of the year is the Match of the Year. And I'm going to read the results here, what we have nominated, it's a lot to get into. So me and Jeremy will probably just give you a couple quick points about each match, and you guys can, tell us what you think. But in chronological order, we have Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega from January 4th, the Tokyo Dome. Kazuchika Okada versus Shingo Takagi on February 11th from New Beginning. Hanare versus Shingo from April 2nd. I think that was a Road 2 event.
Road to Sakura Genesis.
Okay. You got Wato and Teton on May 28th at the Best of the Super Junior Finals. The Blackpool Combat Club versus Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii from June 4th. That was Dominion?
Yeah.
Yep. Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay on June 25th from Forbidden Door. El Phantasmo versus Will Ospreay, August 6th from the G1 Climax. Tetsuya Naito versus Will Ospreay from August 12th from the G1 Climax. And then Okada and Naito from August 13th, the G1 Climax Finals. Will Ospreay versus Yota Tsuji, September 24th. I believe that was
Destruction, right?
Destruction, yep. Shingo Takagi versus Tomohiro Ishii, October 14th from, what was the London show?
Royal Quest.
And then same show, Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. in the main event of Royal Quest. And finally, ending the nominees, Shota Umino versus Will Ospreay, November the 4th from, what was that event?
Power Struggle.
All right. Yeah, I'm Jeremy only has the dates down here, so I'm like trying to remember what events are in what month and all that. But what is this? This is 12 matches we got here?
12, 13, something like that.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, this was a really tough field to kind of narrow down, but I think we did a good job kind of including the best matches of the year. I'm sure that there's some other ones that are just near the cut, and just know that if there's something that you see missing that you wanted to vote for, your job is to vote on what we tell you is the best matches.
Yeah, we did look at Cage Match. We looked at Dave's ratings, looked at my ratings to kind of compile this list and kind of see across the board, not just fully ours, but, a lot of people vote on Cage Match, and kind of see what are the best matches across the board. And so putting in all those different scores and ratings combined, this is kind of the list that we got here.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jeremy, why don't you start us off? Quick thought on, Ospreay Omega 1.
I mean, absolutely incredible blow-away match. I woke up live to watch Wrestle Kingdom, watch this matchup, and yeah, I mean, this should have been the main event. It's an epic clash. Like the ultimate, people, I feel like the word dream match is thrown around a lot nowadays, but like I feel like this was a legitimate like dream match. These two guys in their peak on one of the biggest stages, and it's an absolute one of the best matches I've ever watched in my life.
One of the most violent matches of the year. Very different in style and tone than what I had expected, and one of the best storytelling matches of the entire year as well.
What? You mean New Japan told a story?
Yes,
what?
They did. And it's one of the best, and I think a lot of people are going to have that as a vote. Now, I will, full disclosure, I had trouble this year. When me and Jeremy were going through the awards, he's like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And I was like, bro, I don't remember a lot of this year. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I've been studying for all these tests and I can't hold all the information in my head, but like, I do not remember Okada Shingo. It's got incredible scores. I'm sure it was fantastic. Then again, I'll be the first to admit, I've never been that high on Okada Shingo as a series in general. But Jeremy, I know that you really, in particular, like this match.
Yeah, I've always been kind of a fan of the Shingo Okada series and matchups. And again, I thought this was another great matchup. Interesting that Shingo was coming in as KOPW champion and challenging Okada for New Beginning in Osaka. And I just feel like these guys have great chemistry. And, it's the battle of the pumping bomber against the Rainmaker Lariat. And I think, going in there with Shingo, Okada really has to kind of step up the quote unquote strong style game of, facing the power and striking game of Shingo. And yeah, this was another great world title match this year.
Hanare Shingo had a fantastic match during the New Japan Cup, which resulted in this rematch, the Ultimate Triad match, which a lot of people were kind of scoffing at the rules and thought that it was going to kind of convolute the incredible work that they had done back at the New Japan Cup, and instead it elevated it. And this turned out to be the best series of matches of Hanari's career. And Shingo was fantastic here as well. One of the most hard-hitting matches of the year.
Yeah, I know a lot of people might not like KOPW. There's been a lot of goofy stipulation matches since it's been around since 2020. But when you get a champion like Shingo and you get a stipulation like this and a guy like Hanari who's very hungry, equals to a great matchup. So like you said, yeah, very hard hitting, very unique style of matchup. And this was on a Road to show, and just the buzz that it got being on a Road to show is enough, as kind of speaks volumes alone right there.
Wato Titan, the Best of Super Junior Finals. This was a match that kind of exceeded a lot of expectations from both men and was kind of a new platform for both of them in terms of spotlight within New Japan's lore, and they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely incredible matchup here. I know, again, a lot of people down on Master Wato with him coming back, but I think this year he's really improved. And yeah, I thought both guys really stepped up and kind of they earned the spotlight here. They went out there, killed it, had this great match. I think nobody expected them to be in the finals. Nobody expected them to have this great of a match. And yeah, definitely a big moment here for Wato and Titan.
Then we've got BCC, Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii. And this was a wild and crazy six-man tag team match. John Moxley, along with the BCC crew, really brought kind of the chaos to members of Chaos. And this was one that they fought and brawled all through the outside, and kind of built upon the foundation that has sort of been laid by the previous Chaos versus BCC six-man tag match that had occurred a few shows prior to that was also very top-notch. But this was very likely and arguably the best match in the really fantastic reign of Team Hall of Fame in Ishii, Tanahashi, and Okada, and one of the better AEW New Japan crossover matches of the year.
Yeah, this was Claudio's New Japan Japanese debut, so that was a big deal. And yeah, this match was just wild and crazy. And yeah, I gave it 5 stars right after it happened, and I thought maybe I was going nuts, but you look at the scores and the ratings, and I think across the board people had this 5 stars or 4 3/4. And yeah, this was just a wild match. And look at the guys you had in that match: Tanahashi, Ishii, Okada, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and an up-and-coming Shota Umino. Like, just great talent. You gave them time and great stuff, yeah.
Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, the rematch, it was maybe in some ways even more anticipated than the original match was. And again, very violent. Maybe it didn't hit the same levels of visceral violence that the first match did, but it had, in some regards, a bigger spotlight on it, taking place, over here in North America, kind of a trade-off of home turf. And the match was, very, very violent. And down the stretch, the infamous head drop bump with the
Storm Driver.
The Storm Driver, or whatever they call it. And this was one that rivaled the quality of the first match, and some people thought surpassed it.
Yeah, I mean, great follow-up to January 4th. I am going to be interested to see kind of how it plays out in the voting as more votes come in, to see, because this is a situation where, maybe votes get split, or, people prefer 2 over 1 or 1 over 2. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this is going to continue to do in the voting.
Yeah, definitely. And then the next matchup, and we can kind of talk about all 3 of them. You got Phantasmo and Ospreay, Naito and Ospreay, and then Okada Naito, all 3 taking place during the G1. And G1 is typically known as the time of the year when some of the best matches take place. And, basically the Phantasmo and Ospreay match was to determine who would continue through the B block. So it was essentially the B block finals there. And, to date, possibly the best match of Phantasmo's New Japan run, and he's had some really fantastic matches in the past. But definitely the best of the series between him and Ospreay. Naito and Ospreay at the semifinals for the G1 this year in the new format was outstanding, extremely violent, and was one that everybody was talking about, and very much infamous for Naito getting knocked out and being having to be carried through the finale of the match. And then Okada Naito is a return to form. The crowd was maybe the loudest I could recall them being for any match all year long, and one of the best environments that I've seen in quite a while in New Japan, and one of my favorite matches this year. And finally a return to form when it comes to the G1 finals.
Yeah, these three matches definitely rose to the occasion here, especially with the new formats that we're seeing with G1. We haven't gotten, quite as many, quote unquote notebook matches as we've gotten in previous years in the G1, but I feel like these three matches really were kind of over the top. No doubt about it that these matches were going to get on the ballot. Like you mentioned, yeah, ELP Ospreay was definitely one of ELP's best matches in New Japan, and it was just one of those moments where like you kind of felt like he had a chance. He could have broke through and get on, but of course Ospreay ends up winning the match. But that was just, I think, one of those really first matches of the tournament towards the end there, where you're like, all right, here we go. This is the grade 1 climax. This is what this tournament's all about. And then you lead into the semi and the finals with Naito Ospreay, Okada Naito. Just two absolutely incredible matches. Naito and Ospreay just have amazing chemistry, and they've kind of saved that kind of feud towards these last couple of years now, and seeing it here again in the G1 position, being a semifinal spot was just great. And luckily, Naito was able to get through the match there, get the win, and then Okada Naito, just one of the foundational rivalries of the promotion in the last 5-10 years, and something that the company's been built on. And it was great kind of seeing it on that G1 final stage, and again, another great match for them, and Naito getting the big win. So next we got Will Ospreay and Tsuji for the US/UK title.
Yeah, this was one of the most anticipated title defenses of Ospreay's title run, and kind of the big step up for Tsuji. And it's not nominated here, but the match with Sonata was his first big test, and this was sort of like the second big step up post G1. And a lot of people were almost kind of questioning, would he be the one to kind of dethrone Ospreay, which it didn't happen, but this ended up being one of the best title defenses of Ospreay's run with the belt, and a huge feather in the cap to both him as well as Tsuji, and an incredible step-up match for Tsuji.
Yeah, this was definitely the breakout moment here. Yes, obviously the Dominion was cool with Tsuji coming back in that match with Sonata, but this was like the first quote-unquote real test, and I thought Tsuji knocked it out the park. He showed he can hang with a guy like Will Ospreay, and there were so many just incredible moments in that match, so many great near falls. I think people really wanted to see Tsuji Gene blast this man and win the belt, but didn't happen. Didn't happen.
Gene blast.
didn't happen. Ospreay retained, but definitely a star-making performance there for Tsuji.
Shingo versus Ishii, as well as Ospreay and Sabre, both took place on the same night from Royal Quest. Which is funny because I don't even think that that's nominated for Show of the Year, just based on the fact that the rest of the card was so weak.
Yeah, and we'll get it back because I think Show of the Year is next. We'll talk about kind of the structure of those shows, but two incredible matches here with semi-main and main event, and also two of the better rivalries in the last 5 years with Shingo and Ishii. They've had a history now, which since Shingo's been in New Japan, they're great back and forth, never title stuff, G1 stuff, and then obviously Ospreay Sabre goes back a long time, and it's been a foundational rivalry in the Brit Rest scene, and then has kind of been translated to New Japan, and these guys seem to wrestle every year, every other year, and have incredible matches every time they do.
Yeah, and I mean, if his most recent comments are to be believed, this is very likely the final UK Rev Pro match between these two that we'll ever see. So, kind of a added sentimentality to this match, but two totally different style matches, but equally great and very, very top notch, high end stuff. And then finally, we got Umino versus Osprey from Power Struggle, which kind of closed out the calendar year. And, for my money, very, very close to the caliber of the Osprey and Omega series, and another one of the best quote unquote storytelling matches of the year. And take a lot of the things I said about Suji stepping up, and you can kind of apply that here to Umino.
Yeah, there were so many emotions in this match and so many great near falls, and we saw Shota Umino kind of really break out of his shell and kind of hit that next level that a lot of people want to see him get to, kind of to prove that he could be an ace and carry this promotion. And yeah, he had an incredible performance, and there were so many moments towards us down the stretch where I thought he was going to get it and beat Osprey, but he didn't. But yeah, he got over in defeat, and definitely a great thing for him. And I'm looking forward to Umino's 2024. So that's going to take us now to the show of the year. So we have Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Tokyo Dome, Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Yokohama Arena, Battle in the Valley, Sakura Genesis, Resurgence, Forbidden Door, Dominion, Independence Day Night 2, G1 Climax 33 Night 5, the USA All-Star Junior Festival, Multiverse United 2, and Power Struggle.
Yeah, so this is a pretty eclectic and kind of diverse group of shows and style of shows that New Japan had this year. And you definitely have like your sort of more traditional big calendar New Japan shows throughout the year, whether that's Wrestle Kingdom or Sakura Genesis, Dominion, Power Struggle. They're still here. They're on the card. But there's other ones that are also kind of there. You've got Battle in the Valley, which is like a US based New Japan, like almost the resurgence, quote unquote, of the new, what was supposed to be New Japan Strong. Same thing with Battle in the Valley. Those are like two of the shows that were based in the US. And then you've got also sort of like your crossover shows. So you got like the Wrestle Kingdom 17, which is like the Noah New Japan show, Forbidden Door, which is the AEW New Japan show. Same thing with Multiverse United. So like the crossover with Impact, which was sort of a big through line for the company, and all three of those shows delivered. And then there's some other stuff here too, like the All-Star Junior Festival, which was its own unique thing that happened the night prior to Multiverse United. So and then even the Independence Day show where Strong came over to Tokyo and had shows in Korakuen Hall, which was a very different type of presentation and vibe from what you traditionally see from New Japan at a Korakuen Hall show. So a lot of different things kind of taking place throughout the year here.
Yeah, and for our show of the year, like we were talking about, we're looking from the whole show from beginning to end. I think some people might be, oh, why they're not more like G1 nights on here, or there might be some shows like you meant like Royal Quest. You have those two great match of the year contenders back to back. Why isn't that on here? And we don't put a show on here just for the strength of one or two matches. We look at beginning of the show towards the end of the show, what's a very well-rounded card, a card that had a great match after great match or a lot of great angles on it. And that Royal Quest show, you had those two strong semi-main main event, but the rest of the card wasn't that great. And so all these shows that we have listed here, from the opening match to the main event, great stuff on the card, great angles, and just really stood out as the top shows of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the tournament nights. I mean, in the past, we've had shows of the year contenders from Super Juniors and G1 and, New Japan Cup even. And this year, like the only night that we felt looking top to bottom that deserved to get the nomination was G1 Climax Night 5. And when you kind of compare that night to a lot of the other tournament nights, it just had a stronger presentation, which is a bit of an indictment on the overall structure and style of the G1 current in its current incarnation. But on this night, you had Sonata and Tsuji in a very strong main event, Okada versus Taichi, Kiyomiya versus Umino, and Will Ospreay versus Kenta, which were 4 of the stronger tournament matches, all kind of ranging in the 4.5 to like 4 3/4 star range, plus, a strong undercard beneath that with like Gabe Kidd and Ren Narita and, Okan and Phantasmo. So one of the better G1 Climax nights, but it is interesting that this is the one isolated tournament night that got nominated for Show of the Year this year.
Yeah, in the past, this category would be littered with G1 nights or Best Junior nights. So yeah, very interesting to see that. Yeah, there's only one on here, but I think that also kind of lends to the quality of some of these other shows that happen throughout the year. Battle in the Valley, for example, you had Mercedes Moné, kind of her first, U.S. New Japan appearance, and there was a lot of buzz around that show of her match against Kairi. Then you had Okada and Tanahashi, a title match in the U.S. So a lot of cool things around that, and Sakura Genesis, Okada Sonata. So all these other shows had a lot of great stuff that really elevated it.
Yeah, we're not going to run down every single show, but I mean, just a few quick highlights, things that I can think of. When I look back to the Independence Day Night 2, I think of Eddie Kingston winning the Strong title. I think of Willow Nightingale losing the Strong Women's titles to Julia. I also think of the incredible death match between Jon Moxley and Desperado as some of the key moments of that show.
Yeah, that was a really great. I think those shows are very underrated. I think Wrestle Kingdom, I think kind of underrated, but when you look back at it, also, you had the Omega Ospreay match, Jay White and Okada, the 4-way for the junior title. You had the official debut of Mercedes Moné, and it wasn't the quote-unquote greatest angle, but still a big moment. And Carl Anderson, Tama Tonga, a WWE guy at the Dome. There's a lot of kind of big moments and angles that happen at this year's Wrestle Kingdom, which I think it really puts it up there as one of the top shows.
The Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Yokohama show was notable, not just for being a New Japan versus Noah show, but kind of correcting the course a bit on some of the criticisms from the year prior, where we did get the big series of singles matches between Congo and LIJ that people had been clamoring for. And then the show was also very notable for the shoot kick incident between Kaito Kiyomiya versus Okada. That was very much the talk of the wrestling world at that time.
Yeah. So I would say, pull up your cage match, Wikipedia, whatever site you like to use, look at the full card and get a chance there of what you want to vote for in that category there.
Awesome. So we are going to move on to the Jushin Thunder Liger Junior of the Year. And the nominees are as follows. You have El Desperado, Robbie Eagles, Hiromu Takahashi, TJP, Master Wato, Teton, Leo Rush, and Francesco Akira. And so we've got 8 of the strongest junior nominees this year.
Yeah, really great set of nominees here, all of their own kind of unique years. Francesco Akira, TJP, I'll kind of lump those guys together. They're the Catch 2-2 tag team. They IWGP Junior Tag Team champions throughout the grading period. They've really elevated that junior tag title and tag division. And they also individually had great super juniors. Akira had a standout match with Desperado, and TJP had a standout match with Hiromu. So across the board, singles and tags, these guys have done great work.
Yeah, I felt like both of them took a lot of big step ups in the singles division as well as a tag team. Robbie Eagles, a guy that was really having a fantastic Super Juniors as well, but also has made waves around the country, defected from Chaos, joined TMDK, had that incredible match with Hiromu for the junior title, had some awesome work over in Australia, whether it be for PWA along with Kosei Fujita or just as part of the Tamashi brand. His singles match with Kyle Fletcher, which kind of is under the radar just a little bit and is more of an open weight match, is definitely worth your time to go and check out. Definitely the best match of Tamashi, it just in general. But yeah, Robbie's had a really great year that's kind of unheralded as well.
Yeah, I think Robbie's always one of those guys that's kind of underrated. But yeah, came in, great Super Juniors, came back, joined TMDK, challenged Hiromu for the junior title. Him and Fujita have been doing good stuff together as a junior tag team. So yeah, another great year for Robbie.
Teton was a guy this year that really kind of broke out and was splitting his time between CMLL and New Japan. And to some extent, I almost question whether we should even have him on here because technically he's more of a CMLL guy on loan to New Japan. But considering the amount of tours that he was involved in and being a major focal point of both Best of the Super Juniors as well as Super Junior Tag League, kind of felt that he was deserving of this, especially with how far and how deep he went into the Best of Super Juniors tournament, something that only Dr. Ragnar Jr. had ever done prior to him at being a Mexican national wrestler. And I guess Eddie Guerrero would be the other one as well. But, definitely had a fantastic year this year, as well as some of the matches he had during Fantastica Mania.
Yeah, so two junior tag leagues in the grading period, a Super Junior tour, getting to the finals, Fantastica Mania. Teton has really been a great asset to New Japan, being a part of LIJ. I think he stepped his game up too, just throughout his appearances in the previous years with New Japan. So yeah, that final was really great, and he's definitely a guy that New Japan can always count on now when they bring him in.
Leo Rush is a guy that came in this year, and it was kind of it's tumultuous because he was here, he was having great matches, and then he got hurt, and then he was out, but then he came back, and it really felt like things were gelling, and he was going to stick around for the long haul. Now it's like he's probably done and probably not coming back, and it's kind of unfortunate not to see a payoff to the series of matches that he was having with Hiromu and everything of that nature. But when you consider the work that he did with Yo in last year's Super Junior Tag League at the tail end of the year, and then his Super Juniors, which was fantastic, and some of the matches he had with like Hiromu and Mike Bailey, it's hard to deny the impact that Leo Rush made. It's so much so a lot of people were calling for him to be the next junior champion. It didn't happen, but that's what a lot of people wanted to see happen.
Yeah, he had a really great year in the junior division, and a lot of the work he did, against Hiromu and Speedball, teaming with Yo, Super Junior Tag League, that Tokyo Dome match against Catch 2-2. I think he did a lot of really great work this year. And yeah, it is unfortunate that things kind of ended the way they did. I mean, hopefully there's an opportunity for him to come back in the future. We've seen him wrestle pretty much on every big stage over the last, 5 or so years. And I think New Japan is the stage that he shines the best in. And I think that it's a great platform for him. I think he has a lot of great chemistry with the guys in the division. So, great year for him. And I do hope that 2024 we could get Leo Rush back in the mix.
I don't have much more to say about Hiromu. We already kind of touched base on the year that he's had earlier in the show, but the big two that are left after everything else is Desperado and Wato, and it's probably fittingly so because they sort of had an ongoing rivalry with one another throughout the year, kind of culminating in them teaming together in this year's Super Junior Tag League. But prior to that, they had kind of faced off for the in the 4-way at Wrestle Kingdom for the junior title. Wato, of course, won the Best of the Super Juniors this year, which a lot of people were a little bit shocked by. And Desperado kind of kept busy, whether it was with Strong Style or having death matches or excursion matches, kind of just keeping his profile afloat, even though he wasn't in the central title picture scene while Hiromu kind of held the belt. Both guys sort of found their niche this year.
Yeah, definitely a back burner year for Desperado. Not a lot of quote unquote kind of like super big, matches and moments, but like you mentioned, very consistent, a lot of great stuff with Strong Style, a lot of death match stuff has been fun for him this year. And then, Wato, big step up this year, getting to the Super Junior Finals, winning the tournament, kind of making that push to try to be the next, top domestic junior star, and great stuff with him and Teton. And again, after Super Junior, he's kind of been on the back burner, but yeah, him and Despy teaming together, that was fun in Junior Tag League, and I think Wato should be up for a great 2024. So that's going to take us to the next category, the Tag Team of the Year. So we got Aussie Open, the current IWGP Tag Team Champions, Bishamon. We got Catch 2-2, the current IWGP Junior Tag Team Champions, Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. Got Gabe Kidd and Alex Coughlin, the Intergalactic Jet Setters, Leo Rush and Yo. We got Team Hall of Fame, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tomohiro Ishii. We got the TMDK team of Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols, and then the trio of Strong Style.
Yeah, so New Japan not only had a strong tag team year, but they had a lot of great tag teams within the company at this time. We've had this award for quite a while, and I think this is very likely the most nominees we've ever had for this award. And it's because it was just due. These guys all really went out there and made a mark for themselves. The first team that I'll mention right off the bat is Aussie Open, which they have kind of an interesting case because they wound up winning the IWGP tag team titles this year. They had multiple title defenses and were really having like a great series of matches, whether it be with Bishamon or TMDK, and even the match they had with Ishii and Leo Rush in Philadelphia was also really great. And so they're having this banner year. Everybody's talking about how incredible Aussie Open is, and then boom, poof, they're gone. There's an injury, and then they jump ship to AEW, and they're just gone. And suddenly the case for their candidacy sort of diminished because they just weren't here for the rest of the calendar year. But the strength of their schedule was so strong in the early part of the year. I think they still have a borderline case.
Right. And of course, our grading period goes back to November of last year. And so, they were in World Tag League. They got to the finals, lost to Bishamon, but it was a great final. They had a great World Tag League. And then, like you mentioned, going forward from there, they do eventually capture the tag team titles from Bishamon. They also defend against TMDK. You mentioned they're going to the U.S. They're defending against Leo Rush and Ishii. They're doing a lot of stuff between Japan and America. And so, I think that first half of the grading period is very, very, very strong. And had they remained with New Japan after June, I think that they would probably be a lock to win this. But that the second half of that, with them being gone, is going to hurt their chances here.
Three teams that I'm just going to kind of lump together because they're all in the same division. You've got Bishamon, Gabe Kidd, and Coughlin, as well as TMDK, Hayes, and Nichols. And that's going to be your main heavyweight units throughout the year. And really, a lot of the story of this year was Bishamon. They won the World Tag League for a second year in a row. They successfully defended the tag team titles all throughout the year. And they had great matches with Kidd and Coughlin as well as TMDK. Kidd and Coughlin, winning their first tag team titles in the strong tag team division. Didn't have a great per se on points total when it came to World Tag League last year, but kind of rebounded, joined Bullet Club, revamped and reinvented themselves, and has had a really killer year this year. And then you got TMDK, who, all throughout the year, they've been saying they're the best tag team that's never won the IWGP tag team titles. They had 3 title shots. In the calendar year, they were unsuccessful each time, but you kind of get the feeling that they're right on the cusp of being potentially one of the next champions in New Japan right now with the way things are shaking out.
Yeah, I think all three of those teams had a really great year this year. Really elevated the heavyweight tag division. Bishamon, I mean, these guys, they won the World Tag League within this grading period. Tag champions. They've done a lot to be the domestic tag team, top domestic tag team. Bullet Club War Dogs. I mean, those guys have had a banner year. They're making a lot of noise within the tag division as well. And then Hayes and Nichols, kind of that solid, really veteran tag team that's kind of been in the mix with these two teams, and had all three of these teams kind of had its on-off rivalry this year. But great stuff. I think the next guys we can kind of lump together from the junior tag division: Catch 2-2, Clark Connors, Drill Maloney, the Jet Setters, and Leo Rush and Yo for the top junior tag team this year.
Yeah, and I mean, all of those teams were involved in the junior festival, the Super Junior Tag League at the end of last year, and then, like you mentioned, within the grading period, we ended up having another Super Junior Tag League this year. Leo Rush and Yo were not a part of that, although were they teamed with other individuals and both still in the tournament during the second one?
No, so Leo was not in the second one.
Leo was not there. Yo was with Musashi.
Yeah, right. But they were in the one last year. That's part of the grading period. They won that one to go on and challenge Catch 2-2 at the Tokyo Dome. They did team together throughout the first half of the grading period, and then also Leo leaves and their team ends there. But again, very similar case for them to Aussie Open. They had a very strong first half of the grading period, and I thought Leo really did a lot elevating Yo, and I thought they clicked together. They gelled really well, and they were a really great team. I
still love the Tokyo Dome match they had with the hardway
ramp spot.
The ramp spot where Leo Rush was bleeding everywhere. That match was outstanding. And then these other three teams that you mentioned, the Jet Setters, Catch 2-2, as well as the Bull Club War Dog Junior team, all three of them had runs with the junior titles this year. All three teams, very, very strong years. Catch 2-2 ended up going on to win this year's Super Junior Tag League. So all of those teams ended up wrestling one another and having some of the best matches of the calendar year when it came to the junior division, whether that be in tournament action or in vying with one another over the junior tag team titles. A lot of people have said how great this division has kind of turned around. We've got 4 teams all nominated from the same division, which, like, in years past, the junior divisions, when it comes to tag teams, it's kind of been a joke, honestly.
Yeah. So 3 of those 4 teams all held the tag titles this year. Really solid teams here. And, I feel like Catch 2-2, to me, I feel like they're an underrated team, but, with the voting so far, they're seeing a lot of love in the voting. And so I think, the diehard New Japan fans do respect and love Catch 2-2. So it's cool to see them getting a lot of love in the voting so far. So all 4 of these junior teams, really great year.
And then finally, we've got 2 teams that are both trios. You've got the trio Strong Style, which sort of, kind of dominated the never openweight title scene in the first quarter of the year. And then you've got the Team Hall of Fame, Tanahashi, Ishii, and Okada, which, I'm just going to say it right here. That's my pick for Tag Team of the Year. I don't know if we've never had a trio win this award, and it's going to be very tough competition with how many great tag teams there are. I don't know necessarily that the odds are in their favor, but for my estimation, when it comes to top-notch tag team title defenses, I think they probably have the strongest title reign of any of the other 4 tag team champions that exist in this company right now. And even with Strong Style, it's not just their run with the titles that was noteworthy. It was also the best of 7 series that they had at the tail end of the year with Blue Justice, Team Nagata, that sort of defined their unit now that they're no longer a unit.
That their first and last chance here of being named, Tag Team of the Year. Yeah, that the best of 7 was fun, even though it did end in a draw. But yeah, strong style. They have a great match against Team Hall of Fame, never 6-man tag team champion. So that's why they're on here. And then also, yeah, Team Hall of Fame, Okada, Ishii, Tanahashi, never 6-man tag team champions. They've really done a great job elevating those titles, carrying that division in the second half of the grading period here. And of course, they had that 5-star incredible match with the Blackpool Combat Club at Dominion. And you look at their resume, there's just a ton of great never 6-man title defenses. So I think definitely a worthy team here.
I mean, there's multiple that I loved that won't even get nominated for tag match of the year because there's just too many, honestly.
Yeah.
So following that, we are going to jump into the next award is the Karl Gotch Strong Style Award. And this is for that individual that embodies the fighting spirit of strong style within New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the nominees are as follows. We've got Tomohiro Ishii, The Great Okan, Ren Narita, Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo Takagi, Hanare, Gabe Kidd, Eddie Kingston, Taichi, and El Desperado.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, these are the guys that are the hardest hitters, or the shooters, harken back to Karl Gotch and the true meaning of strong style, or just your hard hitters, or some guys who had some really hard hitting, some even some plunder brawls this year. And yeah, a really great collection here of some of the toughest and roughest in New Japan.
Yeah, I mean, we already went through the match of the year awards, and I mean, you see a lot of those same names pop up here, whether that's Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo Takagi, Tomohiro Ishii. Their names showed up quite a few times, and we're going to have some other match of the year awards like the Strong Style Fight of the Year, and you'll see why a lot of these guys are nominated. But it's not always even just about the match quality, although that is a huge consideration. It is really those guys that you don't want to run into a dark alley. The guy that's going to fuck you up and hit you the hardest, the one that strikes fear into their opponents, and who are extremely technical, who can tie you up into pretzels, who can wring your arm, who can put you on the mat if they need to, stretch you out,
break your back, and make you humble.
Yeah, break your back, make you humble. And that's what these guys do. And and they can take an ass beating and they can give it out as just as well as they take it. And the list of guys, I mean, this right now, in my opinion, is the most violent wrestlers in New Japan, which is a pretty violent company in and of itself.
Yeah, we kind of highlighted some of these guys already. Obviously, Desperado, a lot of the death match stuff he did this year against Jon Moxley in the tag match with him and Jun Kasai against Mox and Homicide. And he's just one of the hardest hitting juniors you got there. And we mentioned Zack Sabre Jr. A lot of his stuff in the TV title defenses was really great, and kind of more that Karl Gotch kind of style of strong style.
Well, let's give a little bit of love and highlight to the guys we didn't talk about. So you got the Great Okan here, who, in his tag matches has shown his technical acumen and his ability to mix it up in a variety of different ways, whether that be incredible clinch work or, mat technique, ground and pound. He is really a master of all trades when it comes to taking all these different types of fighting styles and incorporating it into his professional wrestling. And, he can strike with the best of them, and he can also grapple with the best of them.
Yeah. Then look at his stablemate, Hanare, a guy who's always kind of been a hard hitter, but I feel like he really stepped up this year. Like we mentioned earlier, he had that 3-match series with Shingo, with the highlight being that ultimate triad from the road to Secure Genesis. And he continues to incorporate some of the Muay Thai stuff that he's been doing over the last couple of years. And yeah, he's just becoming a really hard, rough and tough brawler, and it's great to watch.
Yeah, anybody that gets their face tattooed the way that he did, they have to be nominated for the Karl Gotch Award. Also there's Ren Narita, and Gabe Kidd, two LA dojo standouts, two guys that kind of cut their teeth in the dojo system, but now have sort of made a name for themselves. Surprisingly, they're both Bull Club members now, but two guys that really were fucking people up this year, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe Kidd, dude, he's a madman, This guy, the way that he slaps and chops and strikes and just all the wild brawls he had in the G1, and just a lot of the stuff he's did with him and Cognitive with Bishamon this year. I know that the Osprey stuff is kind of more Rev Pro, but even some of that stuff. And man, this guy, he's a tough dude, man. I would not want to run into the streets with Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, Ren Rita showing a lot of the fire that defined his run as, Shibata 2.0, which is also going to go by the wayside. So who knows if he'll be on these awards next year? I don't know. We'll see. But, definitely had a strong year this year as a member of Strong Style.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, we got two guys that are both known for basically being All Japan Pro Wrestling cosplayers in Eddie Kingston and Taichi, but both guys had standout years. I mean, Eddie Kingston, obviously, he's not a New Japan contracted wrestler, but we kind of include him here for a few different facts. The fact that he was part of tours with New Japan this year, but also is the current reigning New Japan Strong Openweight champion. And, you kind of combine the fact that his title status as well as his, tours through the company, namely his G1 run, plus the style of match that he has in this company is always basically every match he has is going to qualify for being considered in this style of fighting spirit, Purezu cosplay sort of thing. So I think he's a good candidate here as well.
Yeah, obviously a guy who loves the King's Road style of wrestling. Big suplexes on the back of the head, big chops, big strikes. Yeah, I think Eddie's always going to be a guy that you look at when it comes to the Karl Gotch Strong Style Award and our Strong Style Fight of the Year, which we'll get to in a bit. And so yeah, also winning the Strong title. A lot of really great matches this year. Taichi, another guy who feels he's kind of underrated. I mean, his kicks are so brutal. Very hard hitter, and like we mentioned, he had a lot of matches with Shingo throughout the grading period this year, and then his G1 as well, and a lot of the KO
with Osprey.
Yeah, the Osprey match and from New Beginning, some of his KOPW stuff. Taichi always a hard hitter here.
Absolutely.
So that's going to bring us over to the next category here, the Big Van Vader Gaijin of the Year. So this is going to the best foreigners in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So our nominees, we have Jeff Cobb, Robbie Eagles, David Finlay, Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols, Mercedes Moné, Will Ospreay, El Phantasmo, Leo Rush, Zack Sabre Jr., and Tama Tonga.
Yeah, I mean, this award is basically kind of similar to what we had mentioned for Wrestler of the Year, but it's pretty much your opinion on how you view it. It could be you think that this person was the best wrestler who was a foreigner in New Japan this year. It could be this person was the best net positive when it comes to ratings and drawing ability and getting eyes on the product and, having star aura or being a top, talent when it comes to storylines and all that sort of stuff. So, or it could be a combination of those things, but this is an award designed specifically for non-native, non-Japanese wrestlers. So as you can see, every single person that fits the bill is not just all for white people. They can be from any country that's not Japan. And we already kind of talked at length about a lot of these individuals, some of the bigger names from the Wrestler of the Year award, but there's quite a few, and also Junior of the Year, but quite a few people that also made their mark this year that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, I think the first one kind of stands out is Mercedes Moné, also the formerly known as Sasha Banks. a really big deal. Towards the beginning of the grading period, I think is when we kind of first heard that she was actually coming in, that she's going to be signing. And then, she signs and then makes her big debut at Wrestle Kingdom, which will then lead to her challenging for the IWGP Women's title against Kyrie at Battle in the Valley. And then she did some stuff in Stardom. She had the triple threat match, and then eventually dropping the belt to Mayu. She was a part of the Strong Women's tournament. So Mercedes, even though was gone after she got injured, she was gone for probably about the second half of the grading period. I think that she had a very impactful first half. There's a ton of buzz of her joining New Japan. We had the Sasha Stan staying up at 4 a.m. to watch Wrestle Kingdom. So she brought a lot of buzz to the Western side of things and really, I think, elevated. Like Battle in the Valley was that one U.S. show. I felt there was a ton of buzz around with her being her first, U.S. New Japan match, challenging for the IWGP Women's title. Mercedes did a lot to really elevate New Japan in the West.
Yeah, and we've had, she's kind of a unique situation because normally we have a threshold of how many matches someone needs to have competed in to be considered for awards of this type. And normally it's something like, I don't know, it depends. We change it every year, but, it's usually like 10 matches or something like that. Mercedes obviously didn't compete within a New Japan ring that many times, but I feel like the reason we nominate her was probably for two reasons. One, aside from what Jeremy's already mentioned, one, she was a contracted wrestler. I think some of those parameters that we put on is more for like freelance wrestlers and people from outside companies, just to ensure that they actually fit within the overall scope of New Japan and have enough participation. With Mercedes, obviously her dates were limited, but we do happen to know that she was signed to Bushiroad, which is a little bit different because this is the only company she was working for at the time. And then the other thing is the amount of dialogue that came along with it and how many eyes were on the product because of her involvement and everything like that. It sort of would seem like a big omission to leave her off of this list in particular. I don't know if she'll win it or not. I haven't looked at how she's doing, but one of the bigger names that were involved in New Japan this year that were, non-native. Aside from that, I feel like David Finlay has to kind of get the big mention, taking a huge step up, turning heel, and then, basically cutting off Jay White's exit from the company, jumping him, and sort of, basically cutting that damning promo on him, and then eventually usurping his role as the leader of the Bullet Club and everything that's sort of entailed in the fallout of his, leading the faction and forming the War Dogs and everything that entailed.
Yeah, I think definitely a big year of moments for Finlay, like you mentioned, leading to that angle of him, fully booing out Jay White. Yeah, creation of the War Dogs, him being never openweight champion, lead coming into Tokyo Dome season, being a part of this triple threat with Moxley and Ospreay. I think he's done a lot of stuff to kind of elevate himself, and from a kayfabe wise as well as like in-ring wise. So definitely a guy there to consider. Jeff Cobb, I think he's a guy that's always going to be probably nominated as long as he's in New Japan for this award. Just a big, strong bruiser, a guy that kind of really fits the namesake of Big Van Vader. It's kind of a big foreigner coming in and having these big matches. I will say probably from a kayfabe perspective, it was kind of a down year for Cobb. He didn't have a great G1 streak like he did. He wasn't really challenging for world titles. He did have the TV World Series with Zack Sabre Jr. Did have World Tag League. I think, was he in World Tag League last year? No, that was Hanare and Ocon. So yeah, he wasn't in World Tag League, but he just had some great spotlights throughout the year.
You said as long as he's in this company. You know something I don't know, Jeremy?
Hey, at the rate that these guys are flying out here, who knows who is next?
El Phantasmo as well as Tama Tonga, two guys that ended the year as teammates in the GOD faction. Didn't start off the year that way. El Phantasmo was full-fledged BC for life at the beginning of the year, and things changed very quickly with David Finlay taking over the group, as we mentioned. And El Phantasmo kind of found himself as a man without a home, coming to blows and being at odds with the Bullet Club, found himself ousted in a very similar manner to the way Tama Tonga had the year prior, ended up finding a home with GOD post G1, had a really great G1 himself, and, formed the tag team with Hikuleo. And, we see how that has turned out for him. But El Phantasmo kind of rebranding himself and finding a new face alignment this year. And then Tama Tonga sort of getting a lot of talk around the wrestling industry, a lot of, kind of speculation and rumors about whether he was leaving, whether he was getting offers from WWE. And then I guess, apparently sticking around with the company and everything that sort of entailed. And, has very much been in the never titles picture throughout most of the year.
Yeah, started off kind of the grading period. He feuding with Karl Anderson, had the never title match.
Bright lights, Karl Anderson.
Had the match with him at the Tokyo Dome, winning the never title there, and then winning the title there, and then going from there, and kind of in and out of the never title picture, feuding with the Bullet Club and Bullet Club War Dogs, feuding with David Finlay. Kind of being in that rivalry, kind of really building up GOD as a faction. Traditionally it was just him and Tangaloa as a team, and now, you mentioned we got Hikuleo, we got Phantasmo and Jado. It's more of a faction now. So faction leader, a lot of title matches, good matches. Yeah, good year for Tama Tonga.
Yeah, and we already talked about the rest of these guys, but just touching base. You got Will, Zach, Leo Rush, Robbie Eagles, Haston Nichols, all of them, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of great accolades and accomplishments this year. Jeremy, I'm looking at a different list than you are, so why don't you take us through the nominees so we're on the same page?
All right, so most improved. So we got Francisco Akira, David Finlay, Kosei Fujita, Hinare, Hikuleo, Kevin Knight, Rei Oiwa, Teton, Shota Umino, and Master Wato.
Yeah, this is always one of those hard to predict categories, just because a lot of people's interpretation of what most improved means varies very wildly, whether that be improvements in terms of character standing, their in-ring work, their persona. There's a lot of different ways to kind of see this, and you can kind of see our line of logic and thinking when you look at each individual, because some of them haven't really improved in terms of ring work, but have improved in other ways within the company, and then vice versa. And you can kind of see that reflected here in these nominees.
Yeah, I also remember, I think it was the 2018 awards where we nominated Zack Sabre Jr. and people were like, how could you nominate Zack? Like, he hasn't really improved, but his standing in the company definitely elevated that year and tapping out everybody
immensely.
Yeah, winning the New Japan Cup. So it can be.
Also, he did get better.
Yeah.
He has gotten better.
Yeah.
Like, let's not lie to ourselves.
Yeah. The kayfabe accomplishments and kind of standing in the company plays a lot here. And I feel like you can look at every guy here and kind of point out some major kayfabe accomplishments, and then a lot of guys too on top of that have improved in ring.
Yeah, I mean, again, Teton, his run through the Super Juniors, probably the big impetus there. Hikuleo, his run in the G1, and then his success as a member of GOD, the new version of GOD, along with El Phantasmo, securing gold. Shota Umino, as well as I guess the rest of those guys aren't here. Shota Umino, though, in the past calendar year, the way that he has improved and kind of the perceptions behind him this past year, kind of like at the beginning of the year, some people even saying, like, I don't know about this guy. And then by the end of the year, people, willing to declare, like, this is our guy. We're going, he's going to carry the
I always knew he had it.
Wato winning the big one. Finally winning the Best of Super Juniors, not winning the title, but winning the Best of Super Juniors.
Yeah, Wato Mania running wild during May. Francisco Akira, great year of Catch 2-2. And we talked about him in Junior of the Year. Dave Finley, we just talked about him with, now leading the Bull Club War Dogs. Kosei Vegeta, one of the first young lions to be a part of a faction before officially graduating and kind of, really stirring up the pot there with his other young lion classmates. And we saw a lot of cool stuff with him, teaming with Zach, teaming with Robbie Eagles, teaming with TMDK, Hayes and Nickel throughout the year. Kevin Knight, great stuff for the Jet Setters with him and Kushida. Oiwa.
And his graduation.
That's right. Yeah, graduated through the end of the grading, the beginning of the grading period. And then, him and
the singles match he had with Clark Connors at the All-Star Junior Festival is also a standout moment for him as well.
Yeah, and winning junior tag titles in the grading period. So good stuff for him there. Oiwa, another standout, and he's now in Noah on his excursion. So first young lion to take a domestic excursion. So that's been interesting. And then he came back and had that match with Zach, and then he was in the World Tag League with Kiyomiya, which I know that kind of counts towards next year's grading period. But overall, a really great year for Oiwa.
Yeah, we mentioned Finley and Hanare, but both of those guys stepping up in different ways, whether that be ring work or their persona. Just a lot of improvement here. So that is going to do it. That's our most improved this year.
Yeah, then up next we have a new category actually proposed by the young boy Josh Smith, the Joshi of the Year award. So, this year we had the creation of 2 women's titles in New Japan, the IWGP women's title and the New Japan Strong women's title.
So here's the thing. It's funny because Joshi obviously is a designation of a very particular style of wrestling in Japan, which is Japanese women's wrestling, is Joshi wrestling. Well, I mean, this is Japanese wrestling company and these are women, and Joshi does mean women. I believe the translation is either girl or woman or lady, one of those 3. I looked it up, but I can't recall off the top of my head. So I wanted to name this award the Joshi of the Year because it will be so funny when people like James Boyd learn that Stephanie Vaquer is the Joshi of the Year.
Oh my gosh. So
it is a little tongue in cheek. Obviously, we know that whoever wins this award is not the top Joshi, and all of, there are people who will get very touchy about that. I understand it. It is a little tongue in cheek, but then again, it does qualify. It is Japan. This is women's wrestling. It is happening here.
Yeah. So our nominees, we have the current Strong Women's Champion, Julia, the current IWGP Women's Champion, Mayu Iwatani, Kairi, Mercedes Moné, Willow Nightingale, and Stephanie Vaquer.
Yeah, so not a ton of candidates, but I feel like these were the primary women that wrestled in New Japan or under a New Japan banner, whether that be in a New Japan ring or representing New Japan by carrying that title and wrestling, whether it's in Stardom or Ring of Honor, what have you. But we had some, looking back on it, I know that this sort of seemed like an understated thing, the women's wrestling experiment within New Japan. But when you look back at the amount of great title matches that were produced, it actually is kind of surprising. We'll get to that because we do have a Joshi match of the year this year as well. But all of these women that were nominated are involved in the top matches of New Japan for women this year.
Yeah, all of them were involved in either the IWGP women's title picture or the Strong women's title picture, and having a lot of great stuff. Also, you joked about Stephanie Vaquer, but she had that breakout match with Mercedes Moné earlier in the year that got a lot of eyeballs on her. Willow Nightingale, she won. She's the first Strong Women's Champion and got a lucky break, literally, with Mercedes getting hurt in that match and her winning the title. Then she faced off Julia at Independence Day, and then Julia's been defending the title several times in Stardom.
I almost considered, should we have nominated Willow Nightingale for Fighting Spirit Award? She wasn't supposed to go over, but she's like, I'm going over. We mentioned Mercedes earlier, but one thing we didn't point out was the amount of fantastic matches that she had during this time in New Japan, whether it be with Kairi or, like you mentioned earlier, the triple threat match with Izumi and who else was in that? Was it Hazuki?
I think it's either Hazuki or Starlight Kid. I can't remember right now.
Maybe it was Starlight Kid. I can't recall. She had the match with Maya Iwatani in Stardom. She had a lot of really great matches during her time here. And then, Julia and Mayu have kind of dominated the title scene throughout most of the year. Mayu's actually carried her title a bit longer than Julia, but Julia's had more title defenses with the strong women's belt throughout the calendar year.
Yeah, and they have been putting a lot of those stuff up on New Japan World, so you can check out some of their defenses there. But yeah, all of these women had really good years. Kairi, she was the first IWGP Women's Champion, won the title towards the beginning of the grading period, and then had the defense at the Tokyo Dome against Tam Nakano, and then going off to face dropping the belt to Mercedes. So kind of a short run there, but she was the first champion and had some good matches in the run.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if Mercedes gets the nom just based on the name value alone, or if it is in fact because of the quality of matches that she had, or if some of the Joshi Stardom freaks are going to flood the votes and kind of give the nominee to one of the more traditional Joshi women, whether that's Julia, Mayu, Kairi, that sort of thing. And then Willow is still very, very popular here in the States, and it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah. So next up, we got Feud of the Year. So our nominees are Aussie Open versus Bishamon, Bullet Club versus Guerrillas of Destiny, Catch 22 versus Jet Setters, Kazuchika Okada versus The New Generation, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, Hanare versus Shingo Takagi, Jeff Cobb versus Zack Sabre Jr., Just Four Guys versus United Empire, the Reiwa Musketeers, Leo Rush versus Hiromu Takahashi, Sonata versus former Parejas, and Team Nagata versus Strong Style.
Yes, we got 12 feuds here, and some of them are just purely an in-ring based feud, whether that's a 2 or 3 match series that, that's pretty much it. There's no other story beats. It's just, a match between two men or a match between two teams. Some of these feuds are more based around an entire faction's storyline, like an ongoing thing. For instance, GOD versus Bullet Club, which kind of spans the entirety of the year, whether that be, all the different variations of GOD versus all the different variations of Bullet Club and all that entails. And then some things are more story based and not necessarily tied around a match. Sonata taking on all his former LIJ members throughout the calendar year in his big title matches. Kind of the same thing when you look at Okada versus the New Generation, and Kiyomiya is included in that. So that whole thing, and I would say that that's pretty much the 3 main types of feuds that we have cataloged here.
Yeah, so again, you have your choice of how you're going to vote. Are you more into a feud that has a ton of matches? You might look at like the United Empire versus Just Four Guys, where you had a lot of multi-mans, and plus each member of the faction was kind of feuding off. You had Ospreay Taichi, you had Catch 22 against Kanemaru and Doki. There was a lot going on there, or even like Aussie Open and Bishamon, where they had several matches, or this over-encompassing Bullet Club versus GOD feud, which does go back to Tama feuding with Karl towards the beginning of the grading period, which leads into the whole GOD becoming more of a faction and feuding with the War Dogs. So that whole rivalry.
Jay White getting kicked out of the company.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah, Hikuleo beating Jay White. So yeah, that Bullet Club God, literally has pretty much lasted the whole grading period.
Yeah. And then, there's like some match series, like for instance, like Zack Sabre and Jeff Cobb, three really incredible singles matches. Two of those were title matches, one in the G1. Or you might look at like Osprey Omega. They just had the two matches, but the heat and the story kind of surrounding them, and the feud being centered around this generational thing, as well as fighting over the United States title and all that entailed. It kind of just depends on what your taste is. And then even Strong Style versus Team Nagata is a best of 7 series with a lot of backstory and a lot of individual motivations with the 6 individual personalities found between those teams.
Yeah, and that best of 7 was the launch to have, Suzuki Nagata team up, to have Wato and Despy team, to have Narita and Umino team. So that rivalry kind of sprung forth a lot of other storylines that happened afterwards.
Another one that we didn't touch base on, but the Reiwa Musketeers, which isn't necessarily a series of matches, although there were matches. I think a lot of it kind of centers around what took place in the A block during this year's G1 and the fallout from it. But it's also kind of an understated sort of understanding and personal rivalry professionally as well amongst Tsuji, Umino, and Narita, and how they view themselves in the light of one another.
Right. I think once the announcement came out that they were officially being labeled the Reiwa Musketeers, there was a ton of interviews from all 3 guys kind of talking about each other and, aiming to not want to be a Musketeer. They want to break it on their own. So there was a lot of promos, interviews, a lot of kind of jabbing at each other throughout the year just from being labeled Musketeers. And then, like you mentioned, the A block saw them face off.
We got to move on from this, but one last thing I'll throw out there. Hinari Shingo fucking rocked.
Oh, yeah. Next up, we got Faction of the Year. So we got the Bullet Club War Dogs, Chaos, Guerrillas of Destiny, Hontai, House of Torture, Just 5 Guys, Los Ingobernables de Japón, TMDK, and the United Empire.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Every year we like to award what was the dominant faction of the year, the most popular faction of the year, and I'm not going to unload the accolades of each one of these groups. A lot of them had champions, a lot of them had successes. The one thing I will say, Bullet Club War Dogs and Just 5 Guys, 2 of your newer teams being added to the fold this year.
Yeah, and this is the first year that we've actually broken out factions from Bullet Club. I listened back to the audio last year, and we were even debating on, are we actually going to start breaking out these multi-Bullet Club units? And we did it this year. So, yeah, you got War Dogs on there. You got House of Torture on there. GOD was a debate because technically they're still part of Hontai, but they now have 5 members. They have their own logo.
Once you got 5 guys, then once you're at just 5 guys, I just assume
that you're a faction. Yeah,
you're a faction.
Yeah, traditionally LIJ has won this award numerous times in the past. United Empire broke that streak last year and won. So both of those teams are seeing a lot of favorable voting right now. So yeah, a lot of great factions here. You could look at the members, look at the accomplishments, and cast your vote for that category.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a popularity contest on this one, is it not?
Yeah. So next up, Newcomer of the Year. So also this is awarded to the best newcomer in the grading period. So we have Oscar Loibe, Drilla Maloney, Mercedes Moné, Ren Narita, Callum Newman, Bolton Oleg, Yota Tsuji, and Shota Umino.
Yeah, so with Newcomer of the Year, it's kind of interesting because a rule that we had made a few years ago is that we would allow guys to have 2 entries into Newcomer of the Year. The first time would be when they entered and made their official debut coming out of the dojo as Lions. And then the second time would be when they would be reintroduced with the new gimmick and everything that entailed, because it's almost like 2 entirely different people and 2 entirely different iterations of their career, although technically they're the same person. So, that's why you're seeing, like, for instance,
Tsuji and Umino.
Tsuji and Umino and
Narita.
all three listed here, even though they've been in the company prior to this.
Right. So yeah, a lot of those guys, they made their debuts, their re-debuts either at the beginning of the grading period or some point within this grading period. You had Tsuji coming back at Dominion. Ren Narita came back towards the beginning of the grading period to win the TV or be a semifinalist in the TV title tournament. And then Umino also came back towards the beginning of the grading period after a historic crossover.
Yeah, and then we've also got the Young Lions, Oleg Boltin, Oscar Luebe, Yuto Nakashima, all those guys. And then you could even lump in Callum Newman's, debut. He's very much, I wouldn't say he's a young lion, but he's very much, the young gun of the United Empire, kind of seen in that similar status currently as to all those guys. And they've all been very impressive this year.
Yeah, then Drilla Maloney kind of came over from the Rev Pro connection initially, joining United Empire, turning on them, joining the Bullet Club War Dogs. He's been a great addition to the roster. And then we talked about Mercedes Moné already. So, yeah, that's our newcomer of the year nominees there.
Yep.
Then we got the Joshua Smith Young Lion, Young Boy of the Year award. So this goes.
Yeah, we used to call it the Young Boy Award, but we were admonished by Alex Coughlin, so it's now the Young Lion of the Year award.
So our nominees, we got Kosei Fujita, Oscar Loibe, Yuto Nakashima, Callum Newman, Bolton Oleg, and Ryohei Oiwa.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not a lot to add here, but the one thing that is interesting is, like, Fujita and Oiwa were started off the year as, like, the senior members of this group and have since left to go off onto Excursion. And you kind of have to consider, once they leave for Excursion, that's like the cutoff of this period, but you never know how people are going to take it when they see these names listed versus, like, Luebe, Nakashima, Oleg, as well as, like, Callum Newman. They've all been in the company for a lesser amount of time. So it's going to be interesting to see if people have taken to these newer personalities during this grading period more so than the more well-established and known Oiwa and Fujita.
Yeah, the thing with Callum Newman, I know technically he's not a quote-unquote, like, traditional young lion, but, they do call him, like, the young lion of the United Empire. He is training in the dojo. He essentially, eats all the pinfalls. He's essentially, the young lion for the United Empire, and is kind of slotted in that position. So that's why we chose to include him here in this category. But yeah, so all these guys are really good years. These are your young lions for the grading period. So let's move on to the next category, the Fighting Spirit Award. So this is awarded to a wrestler that's shown, fighting spirit throughout the year. Some years it's a real life kind of overcoming moment, kind of like last year's winner, Gabe Kidd, overcoming his mental health issues. A lot of times it's kayfabe accomplishments. It's guys having last big runs. There's a lot of different kind of things that could encompass the fighting spirit coming back from a nasty injury. So our nominees here, we have Bishamon with back-to-back World Tag League wins. We have Hiromu as the All-Star Junior with all his work in the junior division this year. We have Ishii, Okada, and Tanahashi, the trio's kingpins. Muto, bye-bye. Keiji Muto's
thanks for leaving.
Final run. Nagata, Triple Crown, Blue Justice. Naito with the G1 hat trick. New Japan Strong with the Japan Arrival. Ospreay, the real world champion. Rocky Romero as the top Rudo. Sonata finally wins the big one. Tenzan, the fierce bull, rides again. Wato, Boss J, Grandmaster, and then Zack Sabre Jr., the modern defense breaker.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't need to go into depth with what these are, but I mean, essentially they're very self-explanatory. Jeremy, I think you did a great job giving descriptive titles. So hopefully those who are informed and following the product can kind of know what we're, addressing there. But Zach, obviously, he broke the modern record for all-time title defenses. That's a big deal. Hiromu, not only having all these title defenses as a junior, but the work that he did amongst the other companies and all his excursion matches and making the connections, bringing people in and everything like that. Naito won the G1 for a third time. That's a big deal. We already talked about the fantastic run of Ishii, Okada, and Tanahashi. Muto's isn't just, I think some people look at that and think of it as a Noah thing, but keep in mind, he did face Naito in his final match to draw that big house at the Tokyo Dome. And he also did have a final run in New Japan as well.
Yeah, he had that 6-man at January 4th, Wrestle Kingdom. He also had the moment where he misted Great Khan. So there's a lot of stuff that had Muto involvement in New Japan. And so, again, also with being, one of the probably one of the top people in New Japan history, I think it was very important to kind of acknowledge him and his final run here.
But, the other stuff is its accomplishments. Ospreay being seen as, the top champion in New Japan, even though he's not the world champion. Sonata being the world champion and finally climbing over the big hill, which is Okada. Wato winning the Super Juniors. Nagata winning the Triple Crown Championship outside of New Japan. Well, I think maybe possibly the oldest All Japan Triple Crown title holder of all time. Bishamon back-to-back. We're going to have to give them another back-to-back.
They're going to have the hat trick award next year, yeah.
And then New Japan Strong finally arriving at Cork and Hall to much acclaim. That's a big deal. And Rocky Romero, all the work that he did in Mexico and being basically like CML, one of if not CML's MVP and winning a world title over there, and having all these great acclaimed matches with Volador as well as Mascara Dorada. And then, I think the one sentimental thing that I wanted to throw on there was Tenzan. And it's just that one last never 6-man tag team title match where they had him go out there and challenge for the titles. And they almost made me believe that he could win it. And they had the video packages and the sentimentality and everything like that. I loved that shit.
Yeah, that was really good. And yeah, the nice little touch there and kind of, trying to give Tenzan one last big spotlight before he potentially retires. So yeah, that definitely had to make it on the list. So then that will take us to the Strong Style Fight of the Year. So earlier we talked about the Karl Gotch Strong Style Award. And now these are some of the fights of the year that those guys were in. So we have Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ren Narita from January 4th. Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega from January 4th. Kaito Kiyomiya and Yoshiki Inamura versus Kazuchika Okada and Togi Makabe from January 21st. Hanare versus Shingo Takagi from April 2nd. Shingo versus Taichi from April 29th. El Desperado versus Jon Moxley from July 5th. Hanare versus Shingo from July 19th. Eddie Kingston versus Tomohiro Ishii from July 26th. Gabe Kidd versus Kaito Kiyomiya from July 27th. Hanare versus Ishii from August 2nd. Shingo versus Ishii from October 14th. And then Jon Moxley versus Great Okan from November 4th.
Yeah, and I think we probably overestimated what adding the award show to a regular episode would be like. So, in the sake of brevity, I'm not going to go over the matches, but what these matches are and what you should be looking for and voting on is this is the match that most felt like a fight. It's the fight of the year. It's not the wrestling match of the year. It's not the most acclaimed match, although you probably do want to vote for something that you enjoyed and that is very highly acclaimed, but it's the thing that most embodied, holy shit, what the fuck am I watching? This is a real fight. And it could be your bruiser brawling, head drop extravaganza, or the match where guys are throwing the most kicks, punches, and chops and all that stuff, or it could be the blood fest where somebody is caught a gusher and is all over the place, or it could be a plunder death match. There's a lot of different style of matches that we've nominated here. It's not just one particular trope, but regardless of what we've nominated, they're all extremely violent. You want to pick the one that resonated the most with you, that was the most visceral?
Yeah, a match like Omega Ospreay is not something we would normally put on here because that's more your traditional match of the year. But that match was so violent, so hard hitting. Like Kenny was killing Ospreay that match. We had to throw it on here.
Well, even like Okada, the tag match from Wrestle Kingdom 17 in Yokohama isn't what we would traditionally put on here. But then that kick from Kiyomiya and the fallout, it almost was more of an angle, but it literally is one of the most violent things that happened in a New Japan ring this year. So it was like, we can't leave that off.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are some matches that, the Gabe Kidd and Kiyomiya match in particular, maybe isn't the most high-end match that we have, but the way that those two guys went at each other, it's like, we can't fucking leave it off. It was so violent.
Yeah. So we're winding down here. Only a few more categories. Next up, we got Junior Match of the Year. So also this is for the best match from the junior division. So nominees are Doki and Kanemaru versus Catch 2-2 from February 4th. Hiromu Takahashi versus Yo from February 5th. Soberano Jr. versus Teton from February 27th. Hiromu versus Leo Rush from March 21st. Hiromu versus Speedball Mike Bailey from May 12th. Hiromu versus TJP from May 19th. Desperado versus Akira from May 21st. Leo Rush versus Speedball from May 23rd. Wato versus Speedball from May 26th. Desperado versus Teton from May 26th. Wato versus Teton from May 28th. And then Hiromu versus Wato from June 4th.
So the way I'm seeing it, to give a brief overview, you've got a majority of the May matches, which are essentially your best of the Super Juniors matches. So a lot of Super Juniors on here. Then you got a bunch of Hiromu title defenses, which kind of round out the rest of it. You got the Soberano Jr. versus Teton match, which is technically a CMLL Fantasticamania match that happened to take place here. So that's the one like true blue luchador match that we've got nominated, but they're within the weight limit.
Mm-hmm.
It is a junior match. And then you got Doki and Kanemaru versus Catch 2-2, which is the one lone standout junior tag team title match that is kind of included here as well. So a lot of Super Juniors on this list.
Yeah, and I feel like, we've been kind of lacking from junior spotlight the last several years with the pandemic and the way the schedule's been changed up. And yeah, we had our springtime Super Juniors. We had a lot of new faces like Speedball and Leo Rush in there. And yeah, the tournament produced a lot of matches, and they're all over the ballot here.
Yeah. I'll just throw a little bit of love out there for Desperado and Francesco Akira, something that sticks in my mind this year.
Yeah, definitely a great matchup there. And I think a shout out to, like we mentioned, Leo Rush and Speedball earlier. But yeah, those guys are all over this ballot too as well.
That match rules.
Yeah. So then next up, the Joshi Match of the Year. So like we mentioned earlier, first time including the women in the award. So we got their own category here for Match of the Year. So we have Mercedes Moné versus Kairi from February 18th. Mercedes Moné versus Azumi and Hazuki from April 8th. Mayu Iwatani versus Mercedes Moné from April 23rd. Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Ricoeur from May 21st. Willow Nightingale versus Julia from July 5th. Mayu Iwatani versus Utami Hayashishita from August 13th. And then Mayu Iwatani versus Stephanie Ricoeur from November 10th.
See a lot of Mercedes. See a lot of Mayu on here.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, these were the top from the women's matches that happened in either a New Japan or Stardom ring. The Stardom matches we included were either strong women's or IWGP women's title matches.
Yeah, and like hypothetically, there were title defenses in Ring of Honor. If they had reached a certain level of quality, we would have included that too. But yeah, some great stuff here, and I look forward to see what most of the populace thought was the best women's match this year.
Then next up, we have Angle of the Year. So we have Mercedes Moné's New Japan debut. Zack Sabre Jr. becomes the front man of TMDK. Muto challenges Naito for his last match. Kaito Kiyomiya shoot kicks Kazuchika Okada. David Finlay ousts Jay White. Sonata joins Just Five Guys. The War Dogs assemble. Bryan Danielson challenges Kazuchika Okada at Forbidden Door. Yota Tsuji's return from Excursion. Jun Kasai steps into an NJPW ring for the first time. Yoshinobu Kanemaru turns on Just Five Guys, and Dave Finlay destroys the US and UK titles.
Yeah, a lot of really great angles that played out here. We had a lot more listed that we had to kind of cut down for the sake of the award, and I am interested to see what kind of connected the most with the New Japan audience. I kind of got a weird feeling what I think it's going to be, but you just never know. The awards are hard to predict. One thing I'll throw a shout out for, Kanemaru returning on Just Five Guys, because that shit got me.
Yeah, that deserves a lot more love than it's gotten so far. But yeah, that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the awards, so I don't know what anything's doing.
Yeah, I think that was a really great angle. And it's one
I think
where
I voted that like number 2.
Tsuji's return, I think that should get some love, coming back and attacking Sonata at the end of what show was that he came back before Dominion? Was it Secure Genesis that he attacked him? Or was it Tsuji?
I don't know.
I forget which show that he did the post.
Dominion.
No, that's when he had the match against Sonata. The previous show he came back and attacked him and did the post match kind of challenge.
Was the G1 finals?
What?
Was it not?
No, G1's after.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was Secure Genesis. I don't know, man. I lose track of all this shit.
Whatever the May show was or whatever. Tsuji.
You're asking the wrong person. This is the person that all year you were like, what do you think about these awards? I'm like, I don't remember anything.
But either way, Tsuji returning was an awesome moment there.
Yeah, and I think all of these moments deserve, recognition, but it's going to be interesting to see, like, are you a fan of Finlay, taking the mallet to the belts? Are you a fan of Okada getting kicked in the face? Are you a fan of, Mutos hanging it up? Like, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah. So on the third to last award here, so we have the Tag Team Match of the Year. Our nominees are Bishamon versus Aussie Open from December 14th. Doki, Taichi, Kanemaru, and Zack Sabre Jr. versus Desperado, Archer, Suzuki, and Taka from December 23rd. Kaito Kiyomiya and Yoshiki Inamura versus Okada and Makabe from January 21st. Doki and Kanemaru versus Catch 2-2 from February 4th. Bishamon versus Tanahashi and Okada from March 6th. Bishamon versus Aussie Open from April 8th. Aussie Open versus Leo Rush and Ishii from April 16th. Mox, Shooter, and Wheeler Yuta versus Okada, Rocky, and Ishii from May 21st. Claudio, Moxley, Umino versus Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii from June 4th. Tanahashi, Kiyomiya, and Kento Miyahara versus Okada, Kano, and Yuma Aoyagi from June 9th. The Elite, Eddie Kingston and Ishii versus the Blackpool Combat Club, Konosuke Takeshita and Shota Umino from June 25th. And then Desperado and Jun Kasai versus Homicide and John Moxley from July 4th.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier that the tag divisions in New Japan have been excellent this year. Very well booked, lots of great matches, and this award goes to show you. I think that we've done this award for like 2 or 3 years now, and I feel confident that this is the strongest collection of tag matches since the inception of these awards. And I mean, we can't go through all of them, but like the only thing I worry about is that people will get overwhelmed by the amount of people that were involved and the names and trying to recall it all. But like, do yourself a favor, go back, look on whatever you want to look at, whatever you use online to kind of catalog this stuff, but go back and look in the history books, and like, you're going to see like 12 really, really high-end, top-notch tag team matches here, ranging from World Tag League all the way up to, like you mentioned, July. So, the death match with Desperado, Kasai, Homicide, and John Moxley, and everything in between. The all together again Ace match was fantastic. The dissolution of Suzuki-gun, one of the most emotional moments of the year. Like, there's a lot here.
Yeah, like you said, we started this category a couple of years ago, and I feel like we had a little bit of hard time, like, all right, what are we going to pick here? I think the floor was a little bit lower for this category compared to the other match of the year categories. But then, like you mentioned, this year was just absolutely incredible. There were so many great tag matches on here. So yeah, do your due diligence and check out your ratings and reviews for all those stuff there. So then second to last, we have the news story of the year. So we got Mercedes Moné signing with Bushi Road. WWE's Karl Anderson defends at Wrestle Kingdom. Kenny Omega returns to NJPW and wins the U.S. title. NJPW back on Access TV. The end of weekly New Japan Strong. The NJPW Academy replaces the LA Dojo system. Keiji Muto retires. The NJPW Strong Women's Title Tournament all together again. Will Ospreay, Jay White, Juice Robinson, Aussie Open, and Kevin Kelly signing with AEW. Kota Ibushi's NJPW contract officially expires, and the NJPW World relaunch.
Not a lot that we got to delve into here. It's the news stories. We lived it. We covered it. You guys heard it. You remember it. And now you just got to tell us what you think was the most meaningful news story of the year. I've got a feeling what I think it's going to be, but we'll see.
Yeah. So then our last category here, one of our favorites, definitely a labor of love for this show and this awards, is the Excursion match of the year. So our nominees are Doki and Minoru Suzuki versus Jun Kasai and Tomioka Hanma from December 19th. Shingo Takagi versus Taichi from December 19th. And those are both from JTO. Rocky Romero versus Volador Jr. from January 20th. That's CMLL. Yuji Nagata versus Kento Miyahara from February 19th. All Japan. Kazuchika Okada versus Kaito Kiyomiya, February 21st. Rocky Romero versus Mascot Dorado 2.0 from July 28th. Luke Jacobs versus Tomohiro Ishii, August 26th. Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi from August 26th. That was the Rev Pro show. Will Ospreay versus Naomichi Marufuji in Pro Wrestling Noah. Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. from October 1st. Will Ospreay versus Speedball Mike Bailey from October 21st. And then Will Ospreay versus the Walking Weapon Josh Alexander, October 22nd.
Yeah, so you got Impact from Canada. You got Just Tap Out and All Japan Pro Wrestling, as well as Noah domestically in Japan, CMLL from Mexico, Rev Pro from the UK, and AEW from the United States. So that's like 7 different companies represented on this year's Excursion Match of the Year list, ranging from, 4 different countries, pretty extensive and varied list. The one thing I will say, and we say this every year, and I'm not going to, again, just for the sake of brevity, we can't jump into all these matches, although they deserve it. Whatever wins, and it'll probably be one of the more high-end matches that a lot of people saw, but whatever wins, regardless of that, if you are a New Japan fan and you know these guys, but you didn't watch these matches, I would say go out of your way, just not for the benefit of voting, but more for the benefit of you as a fan and your own enjoyment of the product and of the sport. Seek these matches out, because this isn't just a category, and you could do this with all of our Match of the Year awards lists, and that's one of the things I'm proud of that we do with these awards. It's not just that we crown and name who's going to win, but we also give credit to the nominees. But these particular Excursion matches are some of the best matches that you're going to see around the world. Almost all are virtually in the 4.5 star and above range, involving New Japan talent. And a lot of it is stuff that you guys probably didn't see, that was maybe a little bit more under the radar. Go out of your way and watch it, because you're going to fucking love it.
Yeah, I think the good thing, a lot of these matches are pretty easily accessible. A lot of the CMLL stuff is on YouTube. New Japan's put a lot of the Impact and Rev Pro stuff up on New Japan World. A lot of the stuff you can find that they're, they've put, again, a lot of stuff's on YouTube, New Japan World, Google, so you can find a lot of these stuff and yeah, a lot of really great matches here. So, you have some time to vote. So you have some time to rewatch some of these matches, and even not just for voting, like Josh mentioned, like these are great, just stuff to watch. People always ask us, oh, give some recommendations. What should we watch? And yeah, this category, match of the year, strong style fight of the year, tag match of the year, junior of the year, Joshi match of the year, all those are essentially a great playlist that you can fire up your New Japan World or YouTube for the Excursion stuff or wherever you go to, and you can sit through and watch these matches.
Yeah. Well, that is it. That is the awards this year. Go out, make your voices heard. You guys, we've said this every year. We determine the nominees. You determine the winners. We have no say in who wins these awards. It's completely voted on by you, the listener, and those that you share these awards with. But I'm looking forward to seeing the results. Me and Jeremy, we love compiling the points and then picking out the pictures and tweeting out the winners and seeing if the wrestlers care.
Which, surprisingly, a lot of them do. We have a question here from Rambo and Slam Pig. He says, what are your thoughts on how we will look back on 2023? Is this year going to be seen as a transition to the next era? Or do you expect that process to take a few more years and this to be more looked at as the tail end of the pandemic era?
That's a very loaded question. I'm feeling like this should be a transitionary period, and we've been proclaiming all year that it is. And now suddenly, with some of the things that are happening in the world of professional wrestling, maybe it's not. Maybe it could hypothetically be the start of a downturn that was brought upon by the pandemic and brought upon by the expansions of WWE and AEW, and New Japan maybe not reading the room correctly and adjusting their practices of building talent to prepare for that. So it does feel, I don't know, it feels like the beginning of a down year. And I kind of point to the anticipation for Wrestle Kingdom this year and also the card that we have on the docket as evidence of that. And hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we are getting ready to have some sort of expansion and new era with new talent, but it just feels like the guys that we're getting ready to elevate, we've elevated them a little too slow. And the generation that was in front of them, that was supposed to prepare them, didn't succeed at getting to where they needed to get to help facilitate that. And so having that lost generation after Okada, whether that be like, your Watos and your Show and your Yos and Great Okan and Sonata and Evil and all of these guys that are not where they need to be in terms of stardom and in terms of capabilities, they didn't rise to the occasion. And now the guys that are underneath either need to surpass them or get held down while we elevate people that probably aren't deserving of it right now. And it feels off.
Yeah, I think 2023 is going to be an interesting year to look back on because I feel like there was it was almost like two different years in one. I feel like the first half of 2023 was a lot more focused. There was a lot more intentionality with some of the stories they were telling. You had the whole like Okada versus New Generation thing. It seems like it feel like there was two people booking.
It was exciting.
Yeah, the first half of the year was very exciting, and then post G1,
no, G1.
Yeah,
starting with the G1.
I guess post Dominion, really. Yeah, things kind of started shifting, and Sonata's title run was kind of a flop, and just that second half of the year just felt kind of like a downslide, and things weren't hitting. Like you mentioned, we're pushing people that maybe don't need to be pushed, and we have the young guys that are having great matches. We talked about Tsuji and Ospreay, Tsuji and Umino, and all these guys having great matches, but they're not winning. They're not being pushed. They're not winning titles, and now we're in a situation where guys are leaving, and these guys have not been pushed yet.
Yeah, we got people leaving. We got people aging who are still being relied upon, like Tanahashi and Naito, guys that are not going to be around much longer at that level. And then you there's scuttlebutt about Okada.
Which
We'll get into that. And the generation of guys that should have been better. And then there's a whole bunch, and then there's like other Japanese talents like Kitamura passed away and he left, and like people like Kanamitsu and people that failed in the process of going through the system that should have been like the next guys that didn't, Yagi, people like that who like just didn't make it through. And we're and then New Japan not utilizing the LA Dojo guys and the Noge Dojo guys soon enough. And then plus, obviously the pandemic and everything like that. It just feels like the company very much has continued to progress everybody at the same rate that they always had without realizing how the environment around the wrestling world was changing. And with AEW's rise and everything, like the slower mentality was maybe a little bit too little too late. And now we're in this predicament, and it's not where fans probably want the company to be. And yeah, the first half of this year is very exciting. The second half is very dire.
Yeah. They got a comment here from Discord. Daddy MJSPR says, first of all, thanks for everything you guys do. Another year on top of my personal New Japan podcast power rankings. Truly appreciate the effort and consistency. Wishing you guys and the whole community an amazing Christmas and safe holiday. Except for that trust fund baby, cowardly money mark, and culture vulture, Tony Khan, Shinny Han forever.
That's funny.
All right.
That wasn't even a question. It was just a comment.
Yeah. We do have the Road to Tokyo Dome shows coming up this week, Josh. So Thursday, December 21st, the show starts. So we've got a big main event on the 21st. The never openweight 6-man tag team champions, Team Hoff, will defend against the United Empire team of Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Hanare. And MJ asks, is United Empire the right team to take the titles from Team Hoff? It makes sense to me to see them have a nice little 6-man run, but some things haven't made all that much sense lately.
Well, they've been saying lately that they have their intention set on taking those titles, with Tanahashi and Okada both heading into singles programs at the Dome. I do wonder if there's really the necessity to keep the title on these on Ishii, Tanahashi, and Okada. I do think it would benefit the members of United Empire a lot more, especially with Will Ospreay on his way out of the company. Probably give them something to do heading into into New Year's Dash and New Beginning and everything like that. So I would say that's the right move. And who knows? They're also talking about wanting to take the ROH 6-man tag team titles. Maybe this is the trade-off. Maybe like, all right, you guys can have the strong belt for your triple crown, and then we'll take your 6-man titles and unify them.
Yeah.
And that's the trade-off. I don't know, but yeah. I think they should do the title change here.
I agree, especially, for a guy like Jeff Cobb, who has nothing at the Tokyo Dome. He's usually featured on there. So I would have these guys win the belt. You can either do like a never 6-man gauntlet, or you could, have Gaze of Agony come over, do the double title match, or have, TMDK challenge. There's a lot of different units that could potentially challenge. You could throw a Bullet Club War Dog heavyweight unit against them. There's several factions there that are not on the card yet that you could put these guys against United Empire, and then you don't have to worry about Tanahashi and Okada going into the Dome with those belts either. And then the semi-main event, we are going to have the provisional KOPW 2023 champion Taichi defending against Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and the votes are finalized, and it will be a whiskey bottle ladder match. So
I've seen Taichi have ladder matches before. They suck. I'm not looking forward to this. It might be funny, I guess, and there's a lot of history between Kanemaru and Taichi and everything like that, but I love the idea of Taichi as the KOPW champion when he's having the types of matches he was having with like Shingo. Mm-hmm. But this is not really for me. I'm sure some people like it, but I don't know. I guess some fun holiday hijinks as we close out 2023 and award the true KOPW provisional, champion. Not provisional, the true
actual,
champion, the actual one.
Then after that, on the card, we'll have Sanada, Yuya Uemura, and Doki versus Naito, Tsuji, and Bushi. Desperado and Satoshi Kojima versus Hiromu Takahashi and Shingo Takagi. Shota Umino, Tomoka Hanma, and Master Wato versus Evil, Sho, and Ren Narita. TJP, Francisco Akira, and Callum Newman versus Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, and Gato. Zack Sabre Jr. and Kosei Fujita versus Yuto Nakashima and Oscar Loibe. Mass Horse makes his return to team with Mass Bolton to take on Tiger Mask and Toru Yano.
The next day, we got Road to Tokyo Dome, Friday, December 22nd. And we have the return of Masked Horse and Masked Bolton teaming up to take on Toru, Yano, and Yo. After that, Tomohiro Ishii will face off against Callum Newman in singles action.
Let's go.
Good luck, Callum Newman. Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi team up to take on so the team of Bishamon will take on Yuto Nakashima and Oscar Loibe. I guess they gotta get a tune-up match before the Dome.
Yeah, they gotta face the new blood.
Desperado and Master Wato are teaming up again to take on Hiromu and Bushi. Francesco Akira versus Drilla Maloney in singles action. After that, TJP will take on Clark Connors. So
Heyman special.
Yeah, we're getting the Heyman special here, obviously. And then your semi-main event, Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi take on Zack Sabre Jr. and Kosei Fujita. I think Kosei Fujita is going to beat Okada here, obviously. And then your main event, you got Sanada, Yuya Uemura, and Taichi taking on Tetsuya Naito, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji. Big time main event on the final match and final card of the year. And whoever wins this match is going to stand tall as the snow falls in Corkin Hall, which is a moment that we all come to treasure and love. I'm thinking if it was me, I would probably have the LIJ team go over with unfortunately, probably have Yuya Uemura eat the pinfall. He's not doing anything at the Dome anyways. He can, that's where they've booked themselves.
Yeah, I am hoping that there'll be some angles here that will build to Tsuji and Uemura at the Dome. Then the previous night, Narita and Umino, they're in the multi-man. Hopefully that will build them having a singles match, and we can get these guys on the card.
Well, they're going to be on the card one way or the other.
Like I said last week, that Rambo,
they got a Rambo. If we get these 6-man tags, we could get a 6-man gauntlet. There's a lot of options, so don't you worry. They're going to be doing something. And if worse comes to worse, they could always throw on the red and the white shirt back on, stand outside at ringside, put the arm out, protect the women and the children.
Oh my gosh.
Grab an ice pack, put it on Sonata's head as he cries as he walks out the building because he lost the title. There's a lot of stuff for them to do. So, but let's jump into the news. So, big rumor. There's a rumor going around that Okada is talking to or working with Barry Bloom. This news was first kind of hinted at on Twitter by friends of the show, Super J-Cast. What's up, Damon and Joel? We had a question here from Lee Chang is Bay 2, says, with rumors that Okada may have hired Barry Bloom to be his agent to negotiate his new contract, what are the odds that New Japan does lose him to an American company?
Well, it definitely makes things a lot more real. So if you don't know, Barry Bloom is a guy that has negotiated a lot of big contracts in the history of wrestling. He's a guy who negotiated Will Ospreay's deal for AEW. He negotiated the Elite's recent re-signing of AEW to get, their biggest contracts ever. He's worked with Jericho. The list goes on and on of guys that he's worked with to
the outsiders.
Yeah, to secure the bag.
Yeah, he's worked with a lot. Here's what I will say. As of now, I'm not going to, we do know a couple things now. but we're not a news breaking site, and I'm not going to step on the lead of those guys at JCast because it's their story that they broke, and they know more about it than we do. So I'm not going to go into detail about anything that anyone has told me so far. I'll leave it to them to kind of discuss on their show and on their platform. But what I will say is this: and this is if he does sign with Barry Bloom, or if he is signed with Barry Bloom, he wouldn't be doing that to negotiate a contract in Japan with New Japan Pro Wrestling at all.
Right. There's no need for that.
There's no need for it. And now keep in mind, of course, maybe this could be some sort of ploy to leverage his position with New Japan, and he doesn't intend to leave at all. Of course, that's possible. But if he puts pen to paper and he's signed with Barry Bloom, then at that point, the chances of him leaving are like 98% and he's gone, which would be unprecedented because no ace of any major Japanese wrestling company in the history of Puroresu has ever jumped ship to an American company. I mean, the closest thing you might want to point to is like Nakamura, but Nakamura wasn't the ace of the company.
Right.
This would be like, Inoki, Baba, Tanahashi, Muto, Ricky Choshu. It'd be like one of those guys like jumping Fujinami, and it's just never happened. And it would be unprecedented if it did happen. And, it could be, if that happens, it would either be AEW or WWE because those are the only two places that he would sign.
Yeah. So we'll keep following the story as more details break and are developed. But
another thing I will say, and this doesn't mean it's happening, but I will say this. If JCast is saying it, it doesn't mean that it's happening, but they heard it from somebody reliable because those guys don't go out of their way to just rumor monger and contrary to what the opinions might be about them. If they're saying that they heard it from somebody reliable or somebody's reliable, and they're smoke to the fire. And honestly, the moment I saw that they posted that, my stomach dropped, and I'm sick to my stomach about it because I think it would be extremely detrimental to New Japan if this happens.
Yeah, it's not going to be good.
It's not good. The Tokyo Sports Awards were revealed this past week, and the winners for 2023 were as follows. The MVP award went to Tetsuya Naito. That's their top award for these awards. The best match of the year, Great Muta versus Shinsuke Nakamura. The women's grand prize went to Tam Nakano. The Outstanding Performer Award went to Hiromu Takahashi. The Fighting Spirit Award went to Kano. Technique Award went to Yuma Aoyagi. The Best Tag Team Award went to Bishamon. And the Rookie of the Year, the Saito brothers, Rei and Jun Saito. So there's probably a lot to discuss here. I listened to Big Audio Nightmare this past week. They did a great breakdown of the kind of political aspects of these awards. But honestly, I wasn't surprised by the picks, just given the history of the Tokyo Sports Awards in general.
Right. As we know, these are very political awards. There's certain agendas that have to be met every year in each of these categories. So not surprising at all.
And it's a domestic award, to be clear. So, I mean, we could bitch and moan about like Will Ospreay not getting even nominated, but like anyone that knew he wasn't going to get nominated. So, I mean, there's nothing to even discuss about it. You know what I mean?
Right. And they weren't going to pick Ospreay Omega for their match either.
Right. NJPW programming will continue on Access TV in 2024. The network announced today that it has ordered 45 new episodes of NJPW on Access TV to air in the new year. Episodes in January will feature matches from Wrestle Kingdom 18. January 11th will be an episode featuring Will Ospreay, David Finlay, and Jon Moxley for the new global heavyweight title. The January 18th episode is going to feature Okada versus Danielson, and then the 25th episode will feature the world title match between Sonata as he defends against the G1 winner Tetsuya Naito. This past week, it was announced that 9 promotions in Japan have formed a new industry group, the United Japan Pro Wrestling. The purpose of the organization has been stated to be to further the presence of pro wrestling and its cultural merit in Japan society at large, allow professional wrestling to contribute further to cultural and sports sectors, and work toward continued health and prosperity of the industry. They had a press release, and a joint event featuring all 9 promotions will be held on May 6th at the Nippon Budokan. The show will be held under the United Japan Pro Wrestling banner, and the companies that are involved, and there may be more in the future, New Japan Pro Wrestling, which, to be clear, is the founding group. The headquarters of this group are actually New Japan's offices. So it's like they're the ones doing it. They formed it. And the other members are All Japan Pro Wrestling Noah, DDT Pro Wrestling, Ganbare Pro Wrestling, Big Japan Pro Wrestling, Dragon Gate, Stardom, and Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. We had some questions here. Rambone Slam Pig asked, how do you think NJPW taking a prominent role in the new industry group that was established this week will impact on future plans to work with other domestic promotions? Is the new, more cooperative style here to stay?
Yeah, I think it is. I think one thing that we saw from the pandemic, New Japan, they want to help elevate Japan in wrestling. They want to work together with other promotions to help raise the state of wrestling in Japan. We saw, the All-Star Junior Festival in Japan all together, the Wrestle Kingdom shows with New Japan and Noah. We've seen now for the last couple of years them more and more working with other promotions, doing these big cross promotions, these big shows, having other promotion guys involved in G1s, World Tag Leagues, Super Juniors. So we're seeing this more collaboration. I think that in the state that Japan wrestling is in, to get more people invested in watching again, I think it's going to be here to stay for a while. And especially for New Japan, as people leave, they're definitely going to need help to elevate their brand.
I would love to have an optimistic, utopian view of the altruistic nature of what this is supposed to be, and that all these groups are going to work together civilly and make a lot of money together. And it's going to be a new boom period for Japanese professional wrestling. But I just don't think that that's actually the case. I mean, the two best examples of large groups of promotions being able to work together would be like the NWA in its heyday, and then in the UK, joint promotions in its heyday. But there's always been issues with those models, and most of the time when they were able to thrive, it was based out of prosperity and them having boom periods where business was doing extremely well, and they were all benefiting, benefit like mutually at the same time. In situations where groups like this have been formed, I think of Pro Wrestling USA in the 80s to kind of combat Vince coming into the country. And, part of me thinks that not only is this in terms of necessity, this is probably born somewhat out of what happened with the pandemic. It's also probably born out of New Japan having this new working relationship with other groups, but maybe still needing to have a hand over the whole thing and kind of having the political control over it. But I do wonder if this has anything to do with the shakeups over with TKO and the merger with the UFC and the previous aspirations of WWE to move into the market.
And NXT Japan has been rumored to still be a focus, and I know WWE's been snooping around trying to see what promotions they could buy. So yeah, this could be kind of a strong defense, a front line to keep WWE out of Japan.
Plus the new deal that they signed with the BIMA. But ultimately, my feeling is that this won't last, and I think it might be around for a bit while people benefit from it, because in Japan, we saw groups like this work together at the turn of the millennium when business was down and companies were going through their quote unquote dark ages. And then once business picked up, they split off, because ultimately it was impossible to keep all those groups working together when you have so many different bookers and personalities and agendas and ownerships and, egos at play. And I think the same thing will happen here. I think it'll be fun for what it is while it's here. And I'm here for the cross-branded shows, but ultimately I think it's going to fall apart. I think it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
we did get a question from Lee Chang as Bay too, saying New Japan has recently put out a presser that they have joined United Japan Pro Wrestling with 8 other companies like Noah and All Japan. Do you guys know what this actually is? It sounds like a wrestling union.
Yeah, we kind of just talked about it. These guys are coming together they're trying to elevate business. They're trying to do, increase ticket sales. They're trying to draw more, trying to work together in hopes to elevate all their business.
Honestly, once I saw the press release for this, I didn't even call around and ask, because it just sounds like basically there'll be cross-branded shows where they put this stamp on it, and there'll be a revenue split between the groups, and there'll probably be some sort of you can get dates on our champion, we'll send them over. I mean, look at what's happening with Noah and their big January 2nd show, and how much New Japan involvement is there to kind of bolster it. I think we'll see a little bit more of that. It'll probably be a lot of talent exchange, and then maybe some cross-branded shows, and revenue sharing for any venture that's kind of under this banner. So I don't think it's just New Japan doing it out of the goodness of their heart. I think it's them.
There's always an ulterior motive.
Yeah. Barry Walsh said, on the announcement of the UTV Japan Wrestling Group, what are your opinions? Does it strengthen all the members against possible NXT Japan or other groups trying to get a foothold? Does it run the risk of being a cartel against much smaller feds? And we already kind of touched base on that, but I think he brings up a good point. I do think it could be, that's what the NWA was. That's what joint promotions was. They were like wrestling cartels that, blacklisted the outlaw territories. And,
yeah,
I did think it was interesting. The one group I would have kind of expected to see listed amongst these members was Glade. And they worked with New Japan not too long ago, and they're not here. And I'm kind of surprised by that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe Glade didn't want to play nice with these guys and want to do their own thing.
Also, Choco Pro. But yeah, no, I do think that the Western invasion idea is probably part of it. I also think that it might be a way for them to kind of consolidate power amongst some of the smaller groups that are there as well. Maybe give them a little bit of what's the motivation to also join into the fold as well. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I'm not optimistic. I'm very pessimistic about it, honestly.
Let it play out, Josh.
Yeah, let it play out. Osamu Kido, a member of the original New Japan Pro Wrestling roster, passed away at 73 years old, unfortunately. Kido's death was announced by his family on Thursday. He passed away on December 11th, with Nikon Sports reporting that Kido had been suffering from cancer for several years and had been receiving treatment. Kido was part of NJPW when the company launched in 1972. In 1986, he held the IWGP Tag Team titles alongside Akira Maeda. They were the second team ever to hold the belts. A little bit before your fandom and viewing, Jeremy, I do think that you've seen Osamu Kido wrestle, even if you don't recall it. When we watched some of the UWF versus New Japan Gauntlet stuff, he was involved in that excellent match.
Yeah, I remember him from that match, yeah.
Osamu Kido is a guy very much before my time. He was around in the 70s, and a lot of the footage of New Japan that's widely accessible in the 70s is either going to be like Andre or Sekiguchi, but mostly it's Inoki stuff. But I have seen some Osamu Kido from like the 80s and 90s. He was one of the favored prize students of Karl Gotch, so much so that they had a very personal relationship where Karl Gotch referred to him as his son, and he referred to Karl Gotch as his father. He did jump from JWA to New Japan when they formed the company, had a huge hand as a trainer, throughout the early 2000s and the 90s.
Trained Nakamura.
Yeah, he did help, had a hand in training Nakamura. He was a member of the original founding UWF when they split off in 84, 85, that sort of thing. And smaller statured guy, not necessarily with the most charisma. He spent most of his career as either a tag team guy or like a mid-card wrestler, but silky smooth in the ring, extremely believable, one of the best like shooters and grapplers in New Japan history. And a solid hand, a guy that they relied on for years and years and years, sad to see him pass away. And our thoughts and prayers go to his friends and family. Finally, here we got Kushida. His relationship with New Japan is not going to change in the wake of his signing with TNA Wrestling. So if you didn't hear, he has officially signed with TNA. He appeared on the Battleground podcast on Wednesday and clarified that he will continue to work for both promotions. So I get the feeling, though, that he's probably going to be primarily based with TNA, which we've seen him work with a lot this past year. And then, when he's in Japan, he'll work with New Japan, which they're hardly using him since they brought him back anyway. So, congratulations to Kushida on that career move. And then finally, Will Ospreay announced his last Rev Pro show will be on February 18th, and he wants to leave with the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship. Assumingly, he has challenged Michael Oku for the Rev Pro Undisputed British Heavyweight title.
Yeah, we know the history and rivalry between those guys, and it's the classic, will the guy take the title to the other promotion kind of story. So yeah, it should be a great matchup and a lot of intrigue as we get closer to February. And we got a lot of questions here that we need to run through here. Some from last week and some new questions that came in this week.
Let's give short answers.
Okay, Rambo Slam Pig says, do you think the heavyweight tag title unification match at the Dome will remain a 2-versus-2, or will some other teams end up in there?
As of now, it looks like it's just going to be 2-on-2. I think it's just a unification match.
Yeah. And a similar question here from Will Pro Wrestling. You guys think the IWGP tag match at the Dome could be changed into a 3-way with the War Dogs?
I think last week everyone was thinking this was how it could play out, but I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, I think they're set with the tag title match, unless they do an angle at the Road 2 shows, but at this point, I doubt it.
Don't they already have graphics?
Yeah.
Yeah, once they get the graphics, it's pretty much a done deal. They're not going to spend money to change the graphics.
Those lazy New Japan graphic designers. Death Triangle 720 says, do you think the Wrestle Kingdom card feels like a company agenda rather than what the fans hoped for?
No, I wouldn't call it an agenda, but I just think it's the logical booking conclusion of a lot of these stories. But it is a huge deviation from a lot of the ways that Gato traditionally has booked Wrestle Kingdom cards. I can't recall Wrestle Kingdom where we ever saw this many rematches.
Yeah, it's very weirdly booked. I don't think it's an agenda. I just think for whatever reason, this was the plan. In the room, it said, let's do all these rematches, and that's what we got. Next up here, Rambo and Slam Pig. It looks like several NJPW stars are heading to the big Year in Noah show. Is that in place of the NJPW versus Noah joint show that we have had the last couple of Januaries? I haven't heard anything about it one way or the other.
Yeah, the last few years with them doing the Yokohama Wrestle Kingdom show, they haven't announced it until Wrestle Kingdom actually happened in most cases, if I recall. So yeah. I'm thinking they're not going to throw that money away. They draw well for that show, so they're probably going to do it again, and we're probably not going to know about it until they do some sort of Wrestle Kingdom angle with Noah. Last year they had New Japan involvement with their January 2nd show, so I'm not surprised they're doing that again.
Yeah, and we saw the angle last year of Congo invading and challenging LIJ, so they'll do an angle or they'll do some kind of announcement afterwards for Yokohama.
I liked the year before better, where they had the tracksuits and the entire roster came out. That shit was sick, and I thought it was going to lead to something. I thought that was going to lead to something big. It didn't.
Less Commission 7252 says, I've seen a Reddit on the New Japan page that said Prince Devitt would have been the leader that Jay White was during his time with Bullet Club. Could you guys absolutely see that? There's a possibility that if he stayed longer in Japan, he would have been the guy to dethrone Okada or Tanahashi and become IWGP Heavyweight Champion. He would have been a transitional champion, but the Japanese crowd had already grew on Devitt, and he played the heel role great.
I do think that the company was going that direction with him, but it's hard to say because they've always had that kind of quasi discrimination against junior slotted wrestlers. But who knows? I mean, you look at the success he had in WWE with NXT and some of the different periods where they've decided to go with him. And, you could probably see him having been in that spot where AJ Styles was or where Jay White or Kenny Omega was. I don't know if it would have been exactly all the same things, the same booking, but I think some of those same accomplishments those men achieved probably would have gone to Prince Devitt had he stuck around.
Yeah, absolutely. Next set of questions here from Death Triangle 720. Does it feel like no matter what the fans say, the company will be on deaf ears about the too many belt situation and recent booking decisions?
Hard to say. I mean, people vote with their money and their mouths, and
put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, put your money where your mouth is. It's hard to say. I mean, again, one of the things that it's hard for us to understand it is a domestic product that is marketed towards the domestic audience, and that doesn't always align with what Western fans want. And I'm not saying that as a cop-out, because I don't necessarily think that accounts for some of the bewildering decisions they've made, but it is something that you always have to have in the back of your mind. But it feels like, a lot of the stuff they've decided recently is very puzzling.
Yeah, it's very head scratching. Also asks, I'm going to sound like a dick, but should New Japan make a deal with Noah to trade them some undercard and older talent so New Japan can make some space for new talent?
I mean, we've already seen examples of them incorporating some of New Japan's older talent, and not just them, but All Japan as well. So that's not too far off base, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good to transition more of the older guys out of New Japan to make room for the younger guys. Also asks, do you think, he says, if Gato stepped down from the booking, who should take his place? Okada, Tana, Nagata?
I have no clue. I don't know who's on the booking committee. I don't know who it has a mind for that, commands the authority. I have no clue.
Clearly not Okada. This man's leaving. He also asks, do you think if the reception of the decisions of the booking was received by the fans of Japan, New Japan would listen to them?
I do think that they would be more apt to respond to response from Japanese fans than they are to the international fan base, for sure.
Yeah, and again, it kind of seems like some of the stuff they're doing is listening to the Japanese fan base. Also, I think that fan base loves the idea of Sonata versus Naito, and they're really into that match. And so that's not appealing to the Western crowd, but I think that is appealing to the Japanese crowd. So I do think some of the booking stuff they are listening to Japanese fan base. Let's see next here. At Will Pro Wrestling, do you think the IWGP Women's Belt, if booked well, could have value on the big shows in New Japan?
Yeah, I do, but you have to utilize it correctly. You have to have the right stars and personalities in place, and so far they haven't shown the ability to accomplish that.
Yeah, there was a lot of promise. I think it could have been great, but yeah, there's a lot of complications, a lot of politics that have prevented from being a big part of the shows. And he also asked, should New Japan just let Noah keep House of Torture and some older talent for a while?
I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I feel like that's wishing ill will on the Noah fans.
Yeah, you could get an exodus similar to what Suzuki-gun did, run over Noah and then come back.
That would suck.
Ramblown Slam Pick says, any thoughts on what the role of the younger generation talent will be at the Tokyo Dome and on the New Japan Road shows? Are we going to get bills to some important matches, or are they getting buried in multi-mans or the Rambo?
Well, he asked this last week, and we're just now getting to it. So, again, the way that the card looks like, maybe there's room for them to potentially do something there, but I don't get the feeling that they are. But you never know. The road to Tokyo Dome shows don't usually have a lot of angles. They usually actually kind of have a lot of kind of weird, wacky one-off stuff that you're not used to seeing. But maybe there might be some room for them to do something like that. But I'm leaning more towards the Rambo and the gauntlet than I am singles matches.
Yeah, we'll see. I know that they've added time for the Tokyo Dome. Usually there is a press conference after the Road 2 shows where they do kind of officially finalize the card. So, hopefully we could get Umino and Narita and Tsuji versus Yumura, but at this point it's looking bleak. Yeah, it's either going to be... Bro,
they could easily just do at the press conference, just out of nowhere, out of the blue, be like Narita, Tsuji, Umino, and Uemura 4-way.
Yeah.
New generation 4-way or whatever,
Yeah.
They could just do that. They're all in different groups. They could easily go that way.
Yeah. Death Triangle 720. Say what you can about the Wrestle Kingdom card, but most of the matches make sense. But Tama vs. Shingo doesn't make sense at all. Does it feel like New Japan had a plan for the Never title, but it fell through?
Yeah, I think so, because it seemed like the booking was leading towards Tsuji and Shingo in the World Tag League. And now that didn't happen. So then Shingo got belted up. I don't know what switched, but something felt like it shifted.
Yeah, either like weeks. Tama signed or whatever reason, or like, Bishamon has to win World Tag League. Like there was some kind of booking change that made them shift course.
Well, they felt like Shingo had to win the Never title, so something weird happened there. I don't know.
Yeah. So should New Japan just release some talent to make space and keep certain top guys, Okada specifically?
I guess that's in response to opening up the checkbook by releasing other talent to be able to afford Okada. And it might not just come down to money, but maybe not the worst idea in the world. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if Okada wants to do stuff in the U.S., I think it could be more about that kind of creative freedom and new challenge versus money. So, also asks, hypothetically, let's say Bushiroad decided to kill Strong and Tamashii and just focus on the Japan market and Asia, would it benefit them financially?
I don't think that they're making that much money abroad, personally. But I'm not privy to their finances in that way. I know a little bit about the Tamashii shows, and I don't think New Japan's making much from those. And I know there's a lot of expenses involved with, the Strong brand over in the States, and, hard to say. It could benefit them, but they are looking to expand one way or the other, whether that's, in these other Western markets or whether that is in Oceania and South Asia. They're looking to do business elsewhere, which I think is a smart thing, as opposed to just being a regional, national touring brand within the country.
Yeah, we know that's Strong. There's definitely a lot of expenses there. That's kind of been changing and altering, and so yeah, it could be that they make more money with this new focus on Asia, but only time will tell. Next question here from Caesar 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 W. Is Taichi ever going to get that IWGP title push?
No.
Yeah, he's too old, man. Let's Commission 7252. There are two stories that could be told after Wrestle Kingdom next year. If Naito wins the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, one is Shane Hayes getting his rematch at New Beginning after being victorious over Naito in the G1. Two, if they bring back the anniversary show for next year, we can get the 3-year-long dream match that the pandemic put on hold between Naito and Hiromu. Do you think both of these two possibilities will happen?
I think that as much as I love Shane Haste, if we are doing a title match between Naito and Shane Haste at New Beginning, something has gone awry. We are not on track. I'm all for the idea of Naito and Hiromu finally on a big stage at the anniversary show, sure. But Shane Haste, and don't get me wrong, you slap a coat of paint on Shane Haste and you give him the right push and the right opponents and you build it and you get the fans behind him, certainly we could do that. But right now, like with, after Wrestle Kingdom, no way. That would be crazy.
Yeah,
that would be the wrong
the post
idea.
Wrestle Kingdom challenger. No.
No.
But yeah, Hiromu, Naito, he talked about that in that interview thing at the stadium. I think that they will potentially do that.
Bro, I'm wondering if Naito's going to wrap it up this year. His knees are fucking gone.
So is
Can't see out of his eye.
Also asked, what vision do you think New Japan wants to have going into 2024? And what vision do you guys want to see New Japan having in 2024?
Survive.
I want the young guys to be pushed. Tsuji, Umino, Narita, Uemura, War Dogs.
I just want the shit to be good. Let's go back to having good New Japan. Let's fucking do that, you know?
Lee Chang is Bay 2. Put yourselves in Gail's shoes for a moment. Your top Gaijin star is leaving, Ospreay, and your biggest domestic star may be too, Okada. What do you do now? Who becomes your new ace? Who becomes your new pillars to build around? What outside talent can you even realistically bring in to mitigate the massive losses of Ospreay and Okada? And most importantly, how do you prevent another dark age from happening?
Well, I think that if this pro wrestling union thing is, intended to curb some of that's not necessarily the worst move in the world. If Okada leaves, the optics of that are so fucking bad.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, Okada's not a spring chicken. He's 36, but still, like, losing him at 36. Fuck, dude. And and all the other guys they've lost to AEW over the years. I mean, I guess some to WWE, but mostly AEW. Like, fuck. I would go with the younger talent, like Jeremy's saying. I would try and make Tsuji, try and make Umino, try and make Gabe Kidd. I would really push some of the guys that have been there for a while that are kind of underutilized, like Zack Sabre Jr., and try and retain him. See if he doesn't take the bag and leave.
Yeah, I think Zack Sabre would be the great kind of transitional champion. Like, you have him potentially like take the belt from Naito, and then you build up the young guys that come and challenge him.
You know, maybe this isn't such a crazy idea and people might not like it, but maybe Ishii should get a title.
Let's go.
You know, even just temporarily to kind of, you went with Sonata, you went with Evil, you went with the rest. Let's put the title on the best and see what happens. I don't know, man. I don't know what you do, because you got basically the top two talents in the company, and if they both leave, like, it's not good.
Time for break the glass, Tanahashi.
Oh God.
Go Ace. Go Ace.
We never talked about it on the show, but like, when Jim Valley was like, if you're a New Japan fan, you should be thanking Tony Khan for signing, Will Ospreay, because, and his reasoning was because at least he'll be able to come back and work. It's like, no, bro. New Japan fans are not going to thank Tony Khan for signing away the best talent in the fucking company so that he cannot come back. And when he does come back, he cannot job. Like, what? That's horrible. No.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Also asked, so New Japan is introducing a global championship to replace the U.S. title. So tell me, what is the difference between global and world? Aren't they the same thing? Why don't they just bring back the IC title back instead?
Convoluted discussion, but I agree with you. You echo the same sentiments that I pointed out. I think Jeremy pointed out last week. It's a stupid name for.
But to be fair, Intercontinental is also the same thing as World.
Not to me. I've never in my life heard Intercontinental and thought that meant World.
Well, it's all
the
continents on the world.
To me, it was just between two continents is Intercontinental. So it was like, is it all the continents? Is that what Intercontinental means?
I mean, I feel like all the title, at least the WWE version, had like the whole globe on it.
Yeah, but I never thought of it that way. I just thought it was like the line between two continents. So it's like the next step up. Like, and maybe it does mean the same thing, but you know what? To me, it doesn't. Because to me, the Intercontinental title is the block-shaped one with the white strap. The world title's got a giant eagle on it. It's not different.
So if the global title is white strap,
it is gonna. I bet you it's a white strap, and I bet you it'll just be like the secondary title.
Yeah,
I think that Noah having a national title is a better way to go, but whatever.
Yeah.
I liked my idea that they do the OPBF title, but whatever.
Let's see. Cozy Dr. Lariat says Naito versus Sonata on track to being the biggest main event in Wrestle Kingdom history. You guys think if NJPW focus more on their domestic business at the cost of Western expansion has been better for business, or should NJPW worry about their Western fans with deeper pockets?
I mean, I don't know why you can't kill two birds with one stone. I don't think that this is on track to be the biggest title match in Wrestle Kingdom history. It is, from a financial standpoint, going to be one of the more successful title matches that they've had in recent years, but not all time.
Yeah. And yeah, I think for like the Western expansion, I think the interesting thing is the reason why like New Japan got hot in the West in the first place was they were just putting on great shows and business was booming over there, and there was a need for it to come over here. And so I think they need to really focus on getting hot, and then if the product gets hot, then the Western fans are going to clamor for it, and then you can come back and do some bigger shows. Discord Daddy says Mercedes Moné is a Muay Thai level finesser. Her grift has allegedly destroyed the company we all love and respect. Will this be the last time we discuss the IWGP Women's title?
So I'm guessing he's saying that because they paid so much money to bring her in and sign her and all that, and then, got some short-term gains from it, but ultimately it amounted to nothing. And now she's not with the company, and now, they're going through hard times. It wasn't the gamble didn't pay off, basically.
Yeah. And potentially they could have used the money to keep Will Ospreay.
Or Okada.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good points.
Yeah. And
I don't know about the women's title. I feel like if it is going to stick around, they need to just, follow suit and unify those two belts. And, I don't know, maybe just gift it to Stardom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Last two questions here from the Dark Soldier. He says, what was up with the WWF World Martial Arts Championship of Inoki? I was always puzzled by it as a kid when looking at the defunct titles, and while it's cool Inoki got to have his own belt back in the WWF, what's the full story behind it?
Well, we don't got time for the full story, but basically Inoki was doing work shoot matches going back to the mid-70s. And when he came to the WWF, Vincent McMahon Sr. awarded him the WWF World Martial Arts title as a belt to recognize his accomplishments in the quote-unquote worked shoot matches that he'd had. And many of those worked shoot matches were contested over the WWF World Martial Arts title. That's pretty much the whole story on it. I love the belt. I love the idea of the belt. He's the best martial artist in the world,
Best shooter. His last question, what is a match from World Tag League that you remember fondly? Doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite. It's a match that you remember being very, very good. For me, it's Best Friends versus Jeff Cobb and Michael Elgin from 2017. What's yours?
No cap. That was going to be my answer. Super Strong Team versus the Best Friends is like one of my favorite matches that we've covered from World Tag League.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even I probably have to look back.
You don't remember that match?
I remember that match, but to give my full definitive, what's my favorite match? I mean, recently,
I don't have a favorite, but one that sticks out to me pretty recently is the match Taka Michinoku and Minoru Suzuki versus the Dangerous Techers.
Was that World Tag League?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I forgot Taka was in that tournament. Yeah. Dude,
they beat the fuck out of Taka.
I remember that. I remember Taka getting beat up. I just remember it being World Tag League.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to think back more on that. All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up here this week. Next week, we will have Chris Samsa on the show, and we will do our big Wrestle Kingdom preview and prediction show. So looking forward to that.
Real quick, I just want to say, so I know we've taken a couple weeks off and a break from recommended match of the week. We had this format, 1 week Jeremy does an excursion match, 1 week I do a recommended match, and like the whole thing just became like so convoluted and like time consuming. So me and Jeremy talked it over before the show. This is basically what it's going to be, because it's our show. We can do whatever the fuck we want. Every week, we may or may not do a recommended match of the week. And that recommended match, should we choose to do one, either one of us can either be a current excursion match or a classic recommended match that's either from New Japan's catalog or even New Japan adjacent, whatever we decide to do. And, I have a feeling with the amount of excursion matches going on, we'll probably focus more on that to kind of help us with the awards throughout the year. But, if there's a week where we're looking at the excursion matches and, they want me to watch, I'm looking and I see a tradition match involving Tenzan, I might not pick that. I might, maybe have us watch a Liger match from 1993 instead. Or maybe we just don't do one at all. But that's kind of just going to be the format going forward. If we choose to do one, we'll recommend it and we'll watch it, we'll cover it, and we'll come and talk about it. Yep. And maybe some weeks we won't.
It'll
be up to us.
Yeah.
Also, I was on the Wrestling Art podcast with Chris Bryan, Chris Things, this past week. Check that out. We discussed Toshiaki Kawada versus Don Fry from the 1990 or from the 2003 All Japan Pro Wrestling anniversary show, which is really great. And Jeremy, I think we got audio on the FOH draft dropping soon, right?
Yeah, that's right. Probably the end of this week, the FOH draft will be coming up. We post a little teaser video on the Social Suplex Twitter or X account, so you can check that out. But yeah, be looking out on our PayHip store, payhip.com/socialsuplex. That's where the FOH 2023 will be dropping. Pay what you want model, so just a donation of $5.
Awesome.
And yeah, keep voting in the awards. Link will be in the description, also pinned on top of our X account. And like I said, next week we're gonna preview and predict Wrestle Kingdom with Chris Samsa. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, the show is at KI Strong Style. Follow the network at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook. We're facebook.com/wrestling_circle and facebook.com/social suplex. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Also Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all those shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Simowitz. Imp's WWE Adventure with the Implications, Matthew Mayer, and Wrestling Art with Chris Things. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Yo, Jeremy, that little project that we got working on in the background, the results came in, so got a surprise for the people in the very near future. We'll see how that turns out.
Yeah.
It's your bum.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.